The tale kicks off with a ritual, Chief Elder standing amid his people, delivering a fiery speech about the gods granting them the power to battle monsters and feeding their skill. He hoists a basket with a newborn inside and bellows that Toru's got a restoration skill branch, while the baby screams non-stop. Now we jump to a whole new time period. There's the entrance to the Goblin Forest. A dark-haired man in armor is stalking a deadly creature, and right ahead of him he grips a dagger in one hand while a long sword hangs at his belt. Then he whips that dagger toward the unknown creature again and again, until at last, he yanks out the dagger and freezes. Because the blade is warped and ruined, the acid has chewed it up, and that's when he finally realizes. He stares at the sword, then flashes his recovery power, snapping the knife's blade back and straightening it into its original shape. He pours dead slime into a container and declares the acid is already made from 12 slimes. Then, out of nowhere, he whips around and finds a whiskered beast with razor-sharp teeth collapsing right in front of him, and it hits him. Someone just unleashed magic. Strangers lunge in with brutal punches aimed straight for him, but he leaps and dodges at the last second. Then the hit slams into the tree. The man lands, twists around, and stares back. Then one of the hunters, a blonde brute, fumes that he was the only one who actually wanted to catch him, blaming. He asks about the main character. Doesn't he know that he always drifts to the forest entrance to hunt slugs? The blonde snaps in pure rage, saying he collects nothing but trash. The comrade grabs the blonde's attention and swears he's telling the truth, then points him straight to his armor and weapons, still flawless. The blonde snaps, raging that this whole thing is a waste of time, then pushes the group, move deeper into the forest, hunt something bigger. 30 years ago, the priest and the villagers of his hometown handed him a skill meant to fix anything. So when everything fell apart, he can only trigger that skill on monster-related items, so it basically does nothing in a real fight. And for ages, he couldn't even get into the forest. A lone man arrives at Daden's border town right at the city gates, and there, posted by the brick wall, two knights stand. A long-haired blonde man intercepts him and fires off a sarcastic jab, calling him an old man, and asking if he's. The protagonist tilts his head up, flashes his badge in front of him, and the blonde smirks. Because this isn't the first, the protagonist turns away in silence and storms out, and the blonde man yells after him that it's time to retire, because being a gatekeeper is way easier. The blonde lets out a shaky breath. Inside the adventurer's item shop, the evaluation department worker calls out for the next client. Right then, the worker snatches the objects like they're disgusting and demands to know what they are, but the protagonist stays silent. Then the woman presses, asking if he's sure it's. Suddenly, that crew of comrades slides in, especially the blonde guy, snapping at her that he was wrong, because a scavenger hunt is still. They close in and snap that he wasted their time on the hunt, so they're taking him out, and the third comrade barks at the second to take his stand. The second one of them reaches for the slugs. The protagonist swings in instantly, smacks the man in the face, and snatches the prey. The blonde lunges at him too, but he sidesteps it clean. Then she slams into the worker's counter instead. Panic hits the worker in a rush. She's trembling as acid drips from the mucus splashed onto her, gasping, asking what this is. Just then another polite worker slides up, taps the first one and calls out Marika, then asks if she pulled the stunt again. While the woman tears into Marika, she said the liquid was safe, sure, but she also begged for caution, and Marika should have listened. Marika snaps back that none of this is. Suddenly, every last slime swirls into one giant heap in midair, then shoots back into its shell, leaving Marika stunned. Ina tells him 1 molehorn and 15 forest slugs will cost 95 copper coins. Then she shoves the payment into. The vendor greets Toru and catches sight of the slaughtered animal. Toru just stays silent. The butcher lifts. After a while, the butcher slides him a bundled package and says it's meant for him, then leans in to whisper that it's a normal little bonus. So out of the crowd, some guy yells at the worker to quit messing around and get to work, and the butcher actually listens, satisfied, and Toru slips around the corner at night, lugging a bag of meat, then drops down and opens it. Right as the scent hits, stray cats spill out from the entrails like they've. The cats swarm the food like it's their last meal and start chowing down. Toru gently pats their head, a smug satisfaction lighting up his face. Then he spots movement in the shadows, animal eyes gleaming back at him, and a heaviness settles in, because the third one still refuses to come. Then he pops up, declares he'll never eat while Toru's around, and says he's gotta go, grabs what's left in the bag and bolts, while a third animal creeps out of the Toru bursts into Avril's boarding house, and a woman with elf ears steps out. Then Toru shoves over a package and declares it's Avril's landlord, and when he shows up, she thanks him with a gentle smile, like she already knows this might save her later. Then she sends him off with warm. Toru stumbles into his room, drops onto his bed, shuts his eyes, and tells himself today feels exactly like every other day. So he snaps his eyes open and stares straight at the closet, scrutinizing every detail. Then he snatches up his badge and quickly checks his skill points for the day. He jerks to his feet, shocked. Turns out he's already got enough control points. He snaps his head toward the closet. He stares at the closet like it's challenging him, struts right up, and yanks the doors open. In the closet, a long-haired girl in a dress sits like a soulless doll, silent as stone, staring straight at him, while she never once speaks. Tor shoots her a look full of regret, and suddenly she's thrown back to everything that happened 25 years ago. Back then, the followers of the gods of destruction clawed their way out of the world's central abyss and crashed into his village like a nightmare. They tore into the villagers, one by one, until the last scream vanished. They were right on the edge of it. The hidden passage to the main road was finally right there, waiting ahead. Suddenly, a monster lunged at them. Then Toru snapped out of the way and drove it down before it could strike. Right when he's celebrating, a new monster lunges in from behind. Then the girl shrieks his name like her life depends on it. She sprints right up to him, takes the monster's hit head-on to shield Toru, and when the boy turns back, he finds her trembling and soaked in blood. The old man snaps his tongue, unleashes his power to stop time, and suddenly everything freezes in place. The old man whirls on Toru and declares he's frozen their time, then demands Toru take her with him. Toru trembles, fighting back tears, while the old man yells. They rush to the Temple of Healing, chasing answers like their lives depend on it. The healer snaps that this is hopeless. Arulia's water god power can't touch her while the stop skill is running, and warns that the instant it's cancelled, she'll die. The old man claims there's just one shot to save her. Then Toru leans in, grabs the moment, and demands Grandpa tells her his recovery skill can save her, and Toru doesn't see it coming at all. He stares at him, stunned out of his mind. Then he snaps, yelling that it's impossible. He can only rewind time by 10 seconds, and even then his power won't work on. The old man warns that if he levels up, everything changes. Toru leans in, hungry for answers, and his grandfather tells him he can unlock. Toru screams that he can still save her, and the old man nods, warning him he'll have to endure hell to get there. The road ahead was just as brutal as the priest warned, and to level up, Toru had to slaughter monsters, except the gate guard couldn't even meet his eyes, so he took the chance and taught him sword basics, and before long, he kept watching fresh newbies crawl into teams and get drilled on how to drop their skill points, until hitting level. He once tore himself into the chaos and saved a kid from the monsters wrecking Deaden City, only to lose half the power in his left arm. Even that didn't mean his wish would come true, so Toru clamped down, refused to fold, and finally snapped back from his memories and reached out. Then he yanks his hand back, drops onto the bed and tells her, "First things first, I've got to level up." Every single person is born with their own hidden tree skill, and it's just waiting to be unlocked. With that skill buried in the branches, one person can pull off miracle after miracle. In his mind, he grabs a whole vessel of skill points, 10,000 units packed tight, and dumps every last drop straight onto the tree. Restoration yanks battle-worn gear back to its original state, and right now he's level 10, able to fire off his skill 10 times within an hour. Toru finally clocks that his recovery skills limit has flipped, from items to objects, then clenches his fist like he's ready to fight. He remembers his grandfather's promise, reach 10 levels, and he'll finally unlock the God of Time's full power, same rule with his stop. He stares down the vessel in the corridor and says it bilaid on them halfway, but the old man's ashes and that. He stares at the sand, triggers his recovery skill, and absolutely nothing happens. He finally gets it. No matter what anyone prays, the gods of the universe can't pull vanished souls back from the dead. He stares at his battered left hand, and memories slam into him out of nowhere, like the moment he realized exactly how he got hurt. The fruit from that tree doesn't just talk, it unlocks a crazy truth about the time continuum, laying out exactly how the goals march through time. He shoots a frantic look at his hand, and then it hits him. he can actually feel the blood pounding down his left arm. He clamps his fist shut and yanks it toward himself. He says it's obvious. He hit it using his gloves, so he can fire off that restoration magic without ever touching it directly. He whips his head around toward the closet, like something just snapped his attention. He snaps to his feet, reaches for her neck where the wound sits, and silently prays to himself that it works. He fires off his power, and suddenly, wave after wave of memories from that event crashes into his mind. He keeps staring at her, reading absolutely nothing in her face, and his gut churns, maybe it didn't work. And then she makes this sound. Toru's eyes snap wide open. The girl bursts out of the closet, glances around and blurts, "Is this the afterlife?" Toru snaps back, "Nope, this is a closet," then asks. He says that when he was little, his grandfather slammed time to a halt with a stop, then he kept up the treatment, but she falls into deep thought, and Toru can't tell if she even recognizes him. Then he grins and tells her, "If I use restoration, I'll look like the boy I..." The girl blurts out of nowhere, that a different boy was there with her. Toru snaps his eyes away and says, "No, I haven't heard anything like that." The girl nods like she gets it. Toru smirks to himself, "This will be easier for..." Suddenly, the girl breaks into real laughter, and between laughs she blurts that he still can't shake his old habit, touching his chin whenever his thoughts get tangled. Toru hears his name spill from her lips and jolts with a little disbelief, so he answers by saying Sarah back, like he's checking reality. Then Toru leans in and asks her the exact moment she knew it was him standing right in front of her. Sarah smiles back confidently and says she recognized him from the start. She told them she'd learned about her grandfather's tragic cardiac arrest, and she was 100% sure this moment was the turning point. Sarah scoots even closer, buries her face in his chest, and quietly admits it crushed her to hear her grandfather had already passed. Feeling her tremble, Toru gently cups her head like she's a little girl, warmth lighting up his face. He tells her he's just as happy to see her alive, and Sarah chokes back tears and blurts that at least on paper, she should be older than him. Then her stomach drops when she realizes he's all. Sarah suddenly breaks down in tears, stunned by how strong he's become, and she never thought she'd see him like this. Toru looks totally lost, muttering that she must have imagined it because he isn't any. Gently stroking her head, Toru tries to quiet her tears and shoo away the sad thoughts. He asks if she's hungry and offers her a snack. Toru's overflowing with love and tenderness. He gazes at her with warmth, ready to swoop in any second to support her and calm her down. Morning spills into Ural's boarding house. The sun climbs up, birds start singing, and Sarah plops down beside the sofa where Toru is knocked out and sleeping like a stone. Then Toru jerks his eyes open, pops to his feet, and yanks Sarah toward him by the chin. The girl's eyes go wide in shock. Sarah snaps her eyes shut and braces for disaster, but Toru cuts in and tells her she's actually fine. Sarah yanked away from him and blurted that the landlady said breakfast was ready. Toru swore that's exactly how he met her the first time. Toru jolts out of bed and heads downstairs for breakfast, and at the table Sarah announces she's finally eating for the first time in 25 years. Toru rushes to apologize to the landlady for showing up with someone so abruptly, and Ural waves it off, saying it's fine. Toru locks eyes with Sarah, who's going to town on breakfast. Then Sarah asks Urali if she can become an adventurer, and Toru snaps. Sarah grins at him, brimming with confidence, and tells him this is exactly why she wants to help Thor. Then silence crashes. Sarah pivots and asks what kind of meat this is, then gushes that it's insanely tasty. Ural just smiles and says he's thrilled she loved everything. While everyone else is caught up in the chaos, Toru's mind snaps back to the real reason. He was trying to shield Sora from the massacre scars in their village. Toru pitches the plan. After breakfast, they'll go register her as an adventurer, and Sarah's face lights up instantly, while Toru quickly says they need one. He asks her to lend him her armor just long enough to buy something, swearing it won't be for long. Uriel admits she hasn't worn it in ages. Sarah grins and promises she'll handle it. Then Uriel strides in with the armor and just like always calls out the damage. The rope's gone yellow, the breastplate's soaked in mold. Sarah beams and thanks her, and then Toru shoots forward, grabs her clothes, and slams his recovery skill to heal her. Memories slam into his head along with these clothes, and then, boom, every piece of his armor snaps back together and comes out. Ural jolts in shock and demands to know what just happened, and Thor tells her it was his recovery skill, then immediately apologizes for startling her. Sarah straps on the armor, and Thor just can't stop staring, while Ural grins and tells her it fits like it was forged for her the very moment she was born. Finally, Toru and Sarah step out of the house in perfect calm, like nothing can touch them. In a city bursting with people chasing their own lives, Toru and Sarah stroll along, calm as can be, while everything around them races. She scans every stall and blurts out, "Is today the festival?" Toru snaps, "Whoa, breathe." Because this border town, at the heart of the world, a monstrous black hole ripped open and birthed a deadly depression. Thick, choking vapors poured out and wrapped the earth like a dirty veil. Then this city acts like a shield, keeping the abyss from swallowing everyone, and Toru tells Sarah how it all started. Long ago, an army of Toru leans in and tells her, "I'm here to meet the local adventurers." Then he abruptly halts and tells her she can head off by herself from here, so she spins around, panicked, asking why he isn't coming too. Sarah, just a second, she finally speaks, like she can't stop herself from saying thanks. Then the girl drops to the ground right away, groaning through the pain as she blurts that her stomach hurts like crazy. Then she insists, "Take me to that building and I'll feel better," and Toru whips his gaze to Sarah. Passers-by whip their heads around, staring at Sarah in shock and confusion, and Toru lets out a breath, telling them this. Sarah screams for him to stop, and insists he doesn't have to change a single thing about how he looks. Toru tells everyone that the people around him don't value him at all, and if she stays close, nothing good will ever come her way either. So he shoots back that at his age, even a man like him is still stuck as a low-ranking adventurer, and that's the kind of thing nobody should brag about. Sarah yells at him, blazing with pride, telling him she couldn't be prouder. She blurts out to the landlady that she's been wondering how brutal being an adventurer really is, and when Toru keeps staring, she hits him with. Toru asks, "So is it okay, even though I'm practically ancient?" And Sarah grins, saying, "Yes, you're a cool old man, so it totally works for me." Sarah grabs his hand and drags him forward, straight to the board where an urgent announcement blares. Sorcerers are needed, 3 E-rank warriors to fill a squad. Then it hits hard. They urgently want a D-rank. Sarah leans in and asks what it is, and Toru grins. "It's a notice board. You can post a request or even an invitation to join the squad right here." Sarah's eyes light up, "That's interesting," and she hits Toru with, "So, did you ever write anything?" Toru just shrugs and says they're stopped in their tracks by that same trio again, the blonde leading the charge, eyeing Sarah like she's the main event. While Sarah and Toru close in, she spots Toru and blurts out, "You're back that fast." And Toru just shrugs, saying he's only keeping an acquaintance company. Sarah beams, grateful to finally meet him, and she blurts out, "I'm Sarah and nope, I'm not an adventurer yet." She blurts out, "Did Mr. Toru bring me?" Then shoots another question, "So what are you to each other?" Sarah answers in a rush that they're getting. The worker leans in, scans the document, and flat out declares she's only 17. Then she thrusts a ball into the air and demands he touch it. Sarah blurts out, "What is that?" And she grins, "It's called a soul analyzer." She slaps her hand on the ball, and Toru leans in, eyes locked, because right inside it, he spots a hidden Toru figures it out, before they even showed up here. He peered into Sarah's skill tree with his time flow. Reversal flips the target's attack or effect on its head at level 1, and you can pull it off 5 times each hour, activating it by blinking while the worker goes. She says that even back in her village, she was the only one who had it, and if she uses it on any attack, it sends it right back. Toru fixes you with a serious gaze, then walks you through everything she's lived, right from the start, because her power depends on it. Sarah slams into his thoughts and flashes her badge, then grins, says she's got one just like his, and jokes that they look. Right then, someone erupts into applause and they whip around. There are 3 of them, laughing as they congratulate Sarah on her registration and coup, baby. Then someone asks if they should dump that graying old man and join their squad, promising they'll teach her the ropes, but Toru snaps at Sarah to go home. He swings a fist at him, but Toru slips out of the way again like it's nothing, and with a light tap on his shoulder, Toru seals the moment. Then the blonde man's balance snaps. He crashes hard onto the ground and slips into a foggy, clouded daze, while the crowd erupts. Without even slowing down, Toru fires off the same move again, straight into 2 more people who flinch back from him. The boys suddenly crash down hard onto the ground. Sarah watches the chaos unfold, then grins at him with pure delight and respect, and Toru turns to her and they bail out of there, and on the road Toru whips around to Sarah and demands, do you truly not mind any of this? Because Sarah said it with full confidence. She'd made her wish clear this morning. She wanted to help Thor in everything, and she was honestly thrilled to get another. She pulls him into a tender hug, flashes a soft smile, and asks if this is what Toru's been dreaming about deep down. Then she leans in, pushes him. Toru gazed into the distance, and with a heavy sigh he told her he wanted to run somewhere far away from all this. Because for the last 25 long years, Sarah's voice trembles with real worry as she asks Toru if he ever regrets how his life turned out. Then he flashes with a real grin and big, honest excitement. He tells her he's not done yet. He's still chasing his path as an adventurer, ready for surprises. Sarah thrusts out her hand and begs him to join as adventurers, and just like that, Toru, the lone wanderer, finds a whole party waiting beside Sarah, and together they strike. In the goblin forest, Toru steadied a terrified Sarah and taught her how to step inside, while he stood ice calm, sword tip angled straight down. Suddenly, a horned mole bursts straight out of the ground, and Sarah snaps her stick toward it, locking her sights on the monster. Toru swings down with a single, crushing blow, one hit, clean and brutal, but the mole still doesn't drop. It digs back into the ground. Sarah snaps, did it get away? Toru shakes his head, not yet. Then he leans in. The mole bursts out of the dirt again, then rockets straight at Thor. Sarah shoots a stare at the mole. She fires her inversion ability, flips the mole straight down, and it smashes into the ground, bleeding. Sarah spots it and blurts, "Is that a horned mole?" Toru confirms it, then grimaces because she totally wrecked the horn. Sarah panics and apologizes, but Toru steps right up. He casts a restore spell, the horn snaps back to him, yet he stays lying there, dead as ever. Sarah tells him he's been revived, and he shoots back that it can't be. Souls don't belong to mortals, they belong to the god of creation, and all he can do is bring the body back. Then he fires off the recovery skill again, and bam, the horn pops right back onto the mole's head. Sarah clocks it instantly and laughs at how slick his plan is. Toru tells Sarah that his family's grown, so he has to bring in at least a little more money, and Sarah beams because he called her his family. They head out together, and Sarah blurts that she's honestly shocked Toru dodged that fast. Then Toru explains he restores his body at different spots across space. Sarah takes a wild guess, and blurts out that's why he kept touching himself all over today, and Toru snaps his hand up to her face. Sarah's cheeks flare red, and she can't wrap her head around what he's doing. Then Toru glances at his ability tree and spots the spatial perception skill. She can read the target's space down to the last detail, and as Sora figured it out, the reason the horned mole's moves were getting crushed by her was simple. Sarah stands there, staring up like she's about to get kissed. Then Toru just turns his back and walks out. Sarah snaps, "That's all." Toru whips around, asking what she means, and Sarah storms right past him, totally offended. Toru muses that when he hunted alone, it took him 20 minutes. Now this fight is over in just 3. He scans the area and blurts out that it looks like they can plunge deeper into. They're camped inside a hollow tree, eating meat off the ground, and Sarah's grinning like she just hit the jackpot. She tears into that meat with wild hunger, chomping eagerly like she can't get enough. In the blink of an eye, her face snaps into something fierce. She yells that he's salty, and every animal in the forest whips around to stare. She snatches a bottle of water, guzzles it down, and catches her breath, while Toru eyes her flushed face with a warm smile. Then he explains step by step. Sarah takes a bite, and her eyes light up as she declares it absolutely delicious. Toru leans in and asks if she spotted anything on the way over, and she admits she couldn't believe how easy it was. Plus the visibility is crystal clear the whole time. Toru says she noticed that too, and honestly, it matters. He tells her the goblin forest right next to the city got stamped as a logging zone, so little. He tells them there's a beaten path straight into the forest's heart, all the way to the logging sites, where the timber's so good it's practically legendary. So Sarah asks if they're basically forest orderlies. Toshiro leans in and asks, "So how many experience points do you think you got from your water jug?" She grins and says, "I killed 3 monsters, so 3. Toshiro immediately shuts it down. "Nope, it's only 1 point. He breaks it down like this. Experience gets split by how many fighters are in the battle, then rounded down, so she only earns points for the slime she wiped out before dinner. Meanwhile, Sarah stares at Toru like he's been an adventurer for 25 wild years. Then she grabs him tight, hugs him hard, and blurts out that Toru grins and says, "That's why we're going deeper into the forest today," and she nods along. Then Toru adds that once their skills run out, they stride into a lush forest, where old trees loom overhead and the green swallows everything in sight. Suddenly, a strange sound snaps them to attention. Toru shoots back a warning that goblins always hunt in tight. A goblin lunges out of nowhere and snarls right at them. Then, in the blink of an eye, he swings his stick and attacks. More figures spill from the bushes below, and more leap down from the tree. Then they charge at them, pure aggression straight on. Toru slips out of every hit like it's nothing, then snaps back with an instant counterattack. He swings his blade and mows down goblin after goblin, striking them one after another. The goblins keep crashing the fight, howling and screeching like they're unstoppable. He rips out one eye, and the other player twists out of his strike with a sudden leap. The hero throws himself into the fight, striking hard and going all out. Then Sarah bursts into the fight and chops down that goblin. Sarah exhales, stares at the goblin corpses, and cringes at how vile they look up close. Then Toru shoves a dagger into her hand. Toru tells you to jam your fingers into your neck, right under the jaw, and hunt for that hard object. Sarah spots a strange object, grabs it in curiosity, and demands to know what it is, because it better not be a goblin crystal. Toru starts hyping her up. "You found a mana stone." But Tan freezes, totally lost, and Toru explains it's worthless by itself, unless you snap it into the right. Toru rises and declares they'll slaughter as many goblins as they can before sunset, and Sarah shoots back, asking if he's taking the— Sarah shoots back, "I get it, and it's just such a damn shame." They finally made it back to the Adventurers Academy, and Sarah bounced ahead, grinning the whole way as she kept talking non-stop about that. The gate guard, the same long-haired blonde, eyes Thor and tells him, "You're early." Then he needles him with, "Tired of scrub." Sarah cuts in, greets him warmly, and thanks him for busting his tail guarding the gate. Then he leans in and calls her. That guy demands, "Who's she?" And Toru freaks out, blurting that it's probably just a total coincidence she's walking with him. Sarah thanks him for always looking after Toru, but Toru's just standing at the gate, totally baffled, wondering when old people started turning. The blonde bristled with anger and snapped at his friend to say something. Then he noticed Rickon wasn't reacting at all, like he'd gone completely still, and asked what was wrong. Rickon fumbled. Toru tells Sarah, "I'm heading to the butcher, go to the appraiser," and she listens. When she arrives, she finds a mile-long line and can't believe the crowd. She hears the guys trading stories about the hunt, and the whole group starts backing him up. One of them snaps that this is what you get when you go after people blindly, without thinking. Suddenly their focus snaps to Sarah. People can't stop saying she's an absolute cutie. Sarah whips around, says hello, and blurts out an apology for eavesdropping. Then the guy shrugs. Sarah says, "We got it," and the guy grins like he knows a secret. "Actually, we're experienced adventurers." Sarah admits, "Today's my first time out." That girl from the group bristles with anger and demands, "Why are you inviting me out of nowhere?" Suddenly, Toru pops up and asks Sarah if she's still in line, and the guy snaps back furious about him cutting in. While he strides forward, leaving the rest of the group utterly stunned, and at the counter the worker rushes out an apology to Sarah for the delay, then asks. She dumps a pile of ears and horns onto the ground, declares that's the day's prize, and the whole group freezes behind it, stunned, wide-eyed, and the worker points out the deal: 2 forest slugs, 5 horned moles, 1 sharp beak, 6 fluids and goblins, totaling 21 pounds. Toru snatches the bag, tells Sarah it's time to head home, and as Sarah turns back to the crew, she thanks them for including her. Right then, the worker calls them over, and realizes they've only got 4 goblins left to calm down. Each one holds up a goblin ear like proof. The heroes burst out into the streets, grinning like they just won the world, pure joy lighting up every step. Toru shoves 1 huge copper coin into Sarah's hand and declares it her share. She thanks him but insists she doesn't need it since she already— Sarah asks if this money is for wedding planning, and Toru shuts her down with a flat "No, it's not." She sprints over to him and practically begs, "Come on, let's check out the shopping arcade." They weave through the counters, and Sarah leans in like, "So what are you craving?" She strolls up, clocks a skewered razor bill, and stops dead to ask, "What about this?" The vendor grins and says it comes smothered in honey sauce. Sarah yells that it looks insanely delicious, so she's determined to try it. Then she buys 3 pieces, and Toru's totally stunned. Well, she refuses, then thrusts a shashlik on its skewer into his face, and orders him to open up. So he does, and he takes the first bite. Sarah takes a bite herself, and her eyes light up. She calls it delicious and tender, then can't help but wonder what in the world it's. Toru claims it's basically the same, so he tells them to grab another one and hand it to the lady of the house. She nods along, and just then someone warns them, "If you keep stuffing yourself." The owner just happened to catch them at the perfect moment. Toru tells her that, the moment he met the owner in the morning, he asked her to take Sarah somewhere, and Sarah immediately wonders if that's exactly why they cut. After hours of chaos, they finally burst into a public bathhouse. Sarah blurts out, "I've never even bathed in a big bath before." Toru shoots back that he figured she'd be wiped out after. Sarah shrugs like it's nothing, so maybe they should go together. Tori's jaw drops at what she just heard, and Ural snaps, "Go in quick." They burst into the public bathhouse, and right in front of them, they spot a whole crowd of girls. Ural swings in by his side and tells him straight where the bathroom is. Sarah sprinted toward her, towel in hand, closing the distance fast. They sink into the steamy hot bath side by side, and Sarah smiles, practically savoring every second of it. In another room, Toru perks up at Uriel's voice, warning Sarah she can't swim here, and Toru smiles like he already knows how this plays out. Soon they burst back out, Thor first, then Uriel and Sarah immediately thanks him for holding out and waiting. Sarah goes, "That sauna is seriously amazing," and admits it was her very first time. Then she can't stop bragging about how her hair and skin feel. Toru blurts that she's so stunning he couldn't even clock her at first. And right then Ural snaps at him to step aside for a minute, Ural says it looks like Sarah only owns one set of clothes, so they rush straight to the store. The female worker freezes when she spots Ms. Ural, then blurts out, "So, what are we picking up today?" Ural blurts out that she wants to buy these guys some clothes, then tells them, "It's pretty hot out right now, how about linen or cotton?" Toru freezes up and answers awkwardly like, I. The woman tells them she's got some incredible grana fabric, and Sarah immediately asks if she can check what else is in the store. Luckily, the worker says. As the worker measures her out, Ural leans in and fires off, "So when will it be ready?" She shrugs and smiles, "I'm not slammed right now, tomorrow." Sarah wanders the store, then suddenly snaps upright when she spots something. Toru rushes over and asks if she's okay. She holds up the fabrics and demands, "Which one's better?" Toru tells her the sky-colored fabric will fit her perfectly, and her face lights up, she totally guessed it would. Then she strides up to the worker, holds out her bag, and asks if she can buy that fabric for this. The worker blurts out that there are 94 copper coins total, and that Sarah can only sell a tiny slice for that price. So Toru pushes coins into Sarah's hands and demands, "Is this?" Toru tells her, "If I'm with you, we can rake in way more, so don't stress." And Sarah thanks. In the end, Sarah storms out with the headband. Ural grins and says he's relieved she's finally feeling better, while Toru shrugs, saying she's always been just like this. He grins and asks if she can see it now, and she nods. Sarah shines so bright. So they hit the road, where Ural says they just need to hope everything. In the goblin forest, Toru screams at Sarah to watch out, because a goblin is charging straight for that way. Sarah blasts through the goblins one by one with her power, but they keep crawling back in waves, jumping out from every angle to swarm her. Toru snaps his sword forward and drives it into his mouth. Then Sarah spots it and finally exhales, all tension gone. Toru and Sarah keep racking up supplies day after day, and taking down those goblins is now their #1 mission. Then Sarah grabs Toru and begs him to use her restoration. They spot the plant and Sarah blurts, "Is this the bitter herb you meant?" Toru nods and says, "Yep, that's the key ingredient for a healing ointment." Then he adds, "You can't grow this in the city." Toru tells Sarah to snip off only the very top, and he swears it'll sprout back in 3 days. Sarah's stunned, then realizes that means she can pick it. They run into the disgruntled blonde again and brush right past her, but her friend clocks them immediately and studies them like something's off. Sarah tells Thor they're having a damn good catch, and he nods along, saying it's so big it'll pull in unwanted attention like a magnet. An unknown man, hemmed in by guards, stares them down, while Sarah and Toru keep their eyes locked on that powerful figure and his arm. Toru spots a shiny silver plaque on him that labels him as a B-ranked man, and the guy straight up asks Riken, "Is that you?" Rick nods and the blonde bristles with fury, because he just whispered something behind the back of someone important. The man leans in and tells Thor there's a complaint. He's allegedly milking a rookie adventurer by pretending to be a guide. Then he snaps, "Come with me." Sarah suddenly blurts out that she wants to object, but Toru shoots it down. Everything's fine, and it won't last long, so they bolt, while the blonde's hands shake with pure. He yells that he never expected he'd be dragged into reporting them straight to the security headquarters, and then he keeps talking to him with pure disrespect. Riken fires a warning at Carlos. Back when he was an adventurer, he called the shots, but now that they're in this job, Riken snaps his gaze away and spits that he's obviously the one breaking the rules, so why should the gatekeeper report him? He's just chasing dirt, and Thor better remember his play. Rage floods Carlos as he blasts Riken straight in the chest and roars that this guy, unlike them, has busted his ass for his whole life. Riken looks down and Carlos erupts in rage, shouting that no matter how you spin it, the only terrible person in this is him, Recon. Riken tells him that Carlos himself always warned him it was time for Toru to hang it up, and Carlos keeps yelling, "I said that, sure, but Toru's so stubborn he might as well." Riken blurts that it's weird. Why is Carlos suddenly acting like a shield around him? He shoots his eyes away and snaps that it's none of his business. Carlos still remembers hunting back then, Torio hauling him along, teaching him the ropes when he was a brand new adventurer and clueless about everything. He tells Riken he still can't wrap his head around Rink being dragged into this. Did they really lose their minds at headquarters? Sarah and Toru stride up with the guards to a strange, special spot, and when Sarah asks what it is, nobody answers, so she turns to Toru. Sarah blurts out, stunned, "Is this really a training ground?" The protagonist blurts out that if her opponents aren't monsters, both magic and old-school martial arts are completely blocked. Yet even against monsters, Toru cuts in and asks if he can listen first, then explains that him and the girl are partners since they're from the same village. So the man promises, "If you really help me, then me and you can go take him on, straight into the fight, and prove we're worth it." He says he doesn't want his blade to lose its edge, so can he grab the training sword too? "Do whatever you want," he shrugs. Toru heads to the swords, stacks. Rage flares in him as he demands how many more he's supposed to take. Then he snaps that Toru should figure it out fast. Toru fires back that there isn't a single good one here. Rage starts to boil in him as he thinks, Toru is a total incompetent worm, so why is he acting like he belongs here? Toru grabs his sword, stares it down like it's under a microscope, snaps, "This one's still fine," and grinds his teeth with pure rage. In the end, they're face to face at last, then the judges press him to step in and join them. The enemy wastes no time, slides into a perfect fighting stance, and locks in ready to strike. One guy swears he cranked his fighting spirit to max the second the battle started. Toru tells Sarah to keep her eyes glued to what's happening, and she flashes him a grin as she watches him back, right on cue. Russell can't help but wonder if Toru's about to throw down with him, just a B-ranker face to face, and before Toru even moves, Russell roars that he's right then he finally realizes his martial arts won't work. Toru wastes zero time, he strikes immediately. He lets his guard slip for a second, and bam, a sword lands straight in his stomach. Russell drops to his knees, gasping like he just survived the fall of a lifetime. The guards cry out in pure shock. Toru snaps his sword to his throat and orders them to let him through. He jumps to his feet and tells Sarah to follow him. Right then, Russell's biting spirit snaps back to life. He instantly slams a fire strike down on them, then Thor abruptly screams Sora's name. The barrier snaps shut and the flames yank Russell back. He groans in agony, crumples onto his back and burns in his own fire like it turned against him. The guards rush in. Later, while they dug into shashlik at the table, Sarah leaned in and demanded to know what he'd done. Then he snapped his head up. Sarah says the second Russell grabbed the sword, his lips parted in pure shock, then she presses him. Was it because he couldn't ignite it? She goes on that Toru drops the truth. When he handed Sarah that wooden sword, he used it to restore his skill tree, straight up. Sarah's eyes go wide. The moment Toru stared at Sir's ability tree, an idea hit like lightning. He'd redesign his own skill tree, because if someone can read the past, then you can also. So he tried to shave down his recovery tree, and right then, the spent skill points snapped back into his grip. Sarah claims he can roll back the skill tree as many times as he wants and swap into whatever branches he likes. True. Toru shakes his head and says nope. You usually, because their skill trees are stuck on just one lonely branch. Sarah can't help but sigh, defeated. Toru says he barely plans to use it, because once you know what it is, you can shut it down so easily. Sarah snaps back, so that's why you made him angry. Tofu swears it worked because this wasn't brute force. It was a sword fight, pure and simple. The moment his blade slid past the first time, it whipped his martial arts. They start heading home, and on the way Sarah leans in, asking what he'll do if they show up again. He snaps back that the charge is totally made up, someone's just seething over the loot, and tells them, keep moving and you won't get grabbed for now. He says the whole adventure world spins around ability, so once everyone knows someone's strong, fewer people dare to step into their path. Sarah panics that once everyone realizes how strong he is, women will come hunting for him, so she grabs his attention and begs him. Right then, Toru had his mind on his own business. Then he muttered that he'd basically figured out who sent Rank B after them. He snaps that it's a total mess, but he'll have to talk to them soon. Sarah's nerves spike and she blurts, "Is it a woman?" He shakes his head. Toru strides down the street solo, while everyone else kicks back and has a blast. And he keeps passing people who are busily pouring their hearts into their instruments. He's packed into the roomy tavern, Choi's diner, alive with noise and lights. He slips through one door, and bam, one man welcomes him with booming warmth like he's expected. Inside, the room is packed with him. This prince blurts that it's been forever since they last saw each other, then demands what wind dragged him back here, while the other one grins and fires back. So tell me, how many? He plops down and blurts out, yeah, it's true, I haven't seen you in forever. Then he leans in, asks how she's doing, and when she smiles, Stradia, an A-rank guy from Platinum Flame, seethes because she keeps brushing him off like always, then swoops in to hit on the second. Taurus claims they're in the Platinum Flame, and that, yeah, they're diving for now anyway, while Stradia snaps back that he doesn't need to hammer it home since it's rude. They only seem close because they trained on. Toru orders up country-style potatoes and sausages, and the waiter snaps into action, grabs the order, and brings the food out. Toru digs in, tries everything, and declares it all delicious, just like always, and the waiter smiles right back. The old bearded man keeps ranting and blasting the other guy with the same warning. This is exactly why, like he said, he won't last. Dodon runs the adventurers' bureau in the border town, and he tells everyone to handle their money smartly and keep it growing at a steady pace. Or Soko, the deputy chief of the adventurers' bureau in the border town, leans in and demands the teacher explain what he'll do with that money, because they're forced to shave off a brutal. Dayton takes a big sip from his mug and admits they're broke, and even fixing the outer wall won't hold up for long. Soko nods and says he's got nothing either, but if this strategy actually lands, then they'll be swimming in prospects for a ton of expensive orders. Toru leans in and asks the other two what strategy he's talking about, and Stracia grins. This is it. The fallen ruins are finally about to get their shining spotlight. Toru leans in and asks Nainessa to translate it into human language. She says the whole plan boils down to this. Seize the northern chunk of Bozalia, the one that got taken last year, and they're set to strike tomorrow. Toro says that's why the bureau was packed this morning, A ranks and B ranks everywhere. They must have been called in. Dodon clicks his tongue and swears you can bank on a strategy with an unknown shot at success, and that iron won't turn into steel unless it's tempered. Sako says he's not shutting the door on talented newcomers. He just won't accept talent that doesn't fit the right person, and his eyes stay locked on Tora. Deedon blurts out that this is exactly why he snapped at Tora, and that he's not afraid to use any method to get results. Then Dadden whips around to Thor and demands, so you're really just gonna stay quiet and say nothing when you're here for answers? Sako tells him he's got a girl with a crazy rare gift and he shoots back. So, is it time I let her go? Tora says, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. Then he pleads with Sako to please not mess with them. Sako shoots the idea down fast, no debate, no discussion, and says real talent should team up with real talent, because your skills won't grow when you're stuck carrying dead weight. Nintsa blurts that it feels like someone's spitting straight nonsense, and the second Sako sees her, his eyes pop wide. He blurts out, shocked, asking what happened to the scar on her neck, and she's just as confused, not knowing either. Stracia suddenly narrows her eyes and starts scrutinizing herself, then glares at Tora like something's definitely off. He rips the bandage off one eye, and with a curse in his voice, he promises he'll show just a slice of the power magic has poured into it. Toru locks eyes with Stracia and doesn't look away. Then he blurts out an apology on the spot, saying it was all his fault. Stradia laughs and says he folded way too fast since there was zero fight, and Vanessa tells Stradia to slow down. Nainasa presses him for what he meant, and he shrugs like it's nothing, saying he just put it back to this level. If she doesn't like it, he'll flip everything back to how it was. Nainasa grins and says, nope, no need, because she doesn't even know how to thank him enough. Sako says he knows that even an old wound can heal, then fires off. So what else can I do? Toru grins and says, you can do all kinds of things. Sako tells Dodon, maybe it's time you retire. You're old, aren't you scared you'll burn yourself out? And Dodon explodes in indignation, yelling that he's got purple eyes, so no way in hell is he ever getting passed over for a boss spot. Toru orders a plate of turnips with tenderloin and a drink, and the waiter snaps to it at once. Then Dada leans in and lays out why Toru's being so damn frivolous, because they're not just chatting, this is serious. Suddenly, the plate is slammed full of food again, and everyone freezes, staring at it in pure shock. Sako says he gets it, right down to how you swing that skill. He even apologizes for his rude attitude. Then Dadan spots something and explodes. Wait, what's going on here? And why is he even involved? Nainsa blurts that something is attacking his head, panic exploding as he demands what's wrong. Then he presses both palms to his bald scalp and suddenly realizes countless hairs have sprouted there. Taurus insists that even if that's what he claimed, he somehow made him look younger. Then Taurus fires back. Wait, what did you just say? How? Dodon just shrugs and admits the truth. Yeah, he really spent ages crafting this useless little skill. Sako claims he knows exactly how to make them stop talking, so he tells them to just lock him in the interrogation room at the bureau for now. He warns that if anyone leaks the truth about this skill, a whole swarm of priests will come crashing in, badgering that person non-stop. And soon, even more people who want hair will pile onto the chaos. Dodon warns that if it comes to that, he'll have to duck and hide, maybe even lock himself in his house, just because of his favorite student. Stratia says this looks like it's headed straight for retirement. Then she shoots them a question. So why aren't we throwing a proper farewell party? Thor grabs his food, then throws down two demands. First, leave him and his people alone. Second, get rid of anyone who dares to interfere, because that's all he's asking for. Sako demands to know what he'll get in return, and Toku immediately tells him, give me a moment, I need time to think. Then he leans in and dares them, give him 6 months, and he'll prove he can climb to the exact same position as the two of them. Stracia flashes a grin, sensing something big is coming, then Sako fires back, asking if that plan isn't too wild for someone low-ranked. Stracia shakes his head and says that if he leans into it with his partner, they could absolutely bulldoze their way forward faster. Toru shoots that down, no matter his connections or how hard he can push. He can't make talent, and on top of that, he's so naturally gifted that everything drops into his lap, which means he ends up demanding way more than anyone else can handle. In his head, he realizes the truth. None of his people have climbed a rank in the last decade, except the 2 Platinum Flame legends he's talking about, Nainsa and Stracia. Dodon bursts out laughing, swearing he's finally about to get his say, but Sako shoots back that their director is obsessed with being a retired adventurer, so he basically started the whole craze of adventurers calling it quits early, and Dodon snaps, furious that anyone would say it. Toru tells them, I'm not here to piss you off, I'm just here to keep doing what I've always done. Dodon tells him, like always, that he's not exactly the type to chase coin, and then he offers him resignation. You can stay with us. He snaps back that he doesn't want to resign, but if Dodon pleads with all his heart, he'll at least seriously consider it. Dodon says he's still got dreams of being a field adventurer, then straight up asks Toru how long he plans to keep going. Toru fires back that he wants to level up even more, and Dodon promises that one day he'll climb to the same insane heights as them. Toru can't shake the thought that the great gates above the miasma in the underground labyrinth will slam down on these two. And the scariest part is, the very best spots are already taken by the people who saved the world. He's locked in, dreaming about the honorary title of the great hero. Stracia tightens her hug on Tora and gushes about how much she loves his sweeping plans, especially the ones he keeps admitting he's not even in. Then she leans in and tells him she can't wait to see what's next. Dodon spots it and tells him to stay an adventurer as long as he can, then leave the rest to him, while Soko stares around at the chaos unfolding. Sako clocks it instantly, Russell got code, and that screams something off. He mutters that siding with Russell is a disaster for the director. Then Sako nods and says he'll take the deal, and once it's signed, he'll make sure his people keep their hands to themselves. Even so, he's still somehow able to read how far he's come, and Toru just calmly tells him he's happy he agreed to the conditions. He drops the coin, stands up and declares, "Since the talk's done, let me out." Don jumps to his feet and fires back, "What are you doing?" Still, with it being a kid's time, he pushes for them to sit down and trade memories from the past. Toru just walks out, and the waiter grins and tells him to come back, but Daden is left seething, furious that nobody even listened to him. Sako snaps at Daden, asking if he's really just going to let him walk away like that. Daden shoots back, yes, because he's always been stubborn and never listened to anyone, and he dares Sako to admit it's true, but Sako refuses to call it a defeat and tells him straight up that's not what he means. With bright curiosity, he asks Daden if they'll even let him into the house looking like that, with hair like he's got. Toru and Sarah roll up to the worker with a cart, and Sarah's jaw drops at today's haul, 2 massive giant caterpillars. Toru orders her to sell one whole, split the other in half, sell that half, and then chop up the rest. They toss over money and meat, and Sarah's stomach growls. She blurts that she's starving, then pushes to head home early so they can fry it up. Toru tells her to slow down, because he's got plans and wants to take her somewhere today. Then he laughs and says they've got a ton of meat, and she'll love it for sure. They slip into a shadowy corner. Toru drops the meat on the floor and snaps at Sarah, "Watch." 2 cats burst out, and Sarah's eyes go wide in shock. Toru then blurts that he's sorry for the delay, and begs them for forgiveness. Sarah asks if he means these cats, and he admits yep, he's usually the one who feeds them here, just hasn't shown up in a while. Sarah starts petting the cat and brags that she helped out with hunting too. Toru immediately snaps, "Back off while I'm eating." But the cat keeps crawling toward her, purring with pure affection, and Sarah lights up. She even tells Thor to look at that satisfied little face of his. Thor freezes, stunned. The second cat snuggles right up to Sarah too, and the girl leans in like, "So, are you two actually enjoying this?" Toru believes he has fed them for 6 whole months, just to earn their trust. Sarah jolts to her feet, and a weird, unsettling sensation hits her like lightning. He leans in and tells Thor, "There's something wild going on here and we're being watched." But when he listens, nothing, not a sound. Then Sarah explodes, shouting, "Look at what I caught." He snaps his head around, and right there, Sarah cradles a little girl in her arms. Toru's jaw drops. Sarah tells him, "We're playing hide and seek." But wait, is she really a local kid? Toru can't believe it, and then the thought hits him. Is this the 3rd one already? The girl insists she won't eat moo because it tastes bad, but Sarah snaps back that she's not eating it either, and demands its name. Then Moo's stomach growls, and the kid blurted that he heard it was actually tasty. He spots cats dining and charges straight in on the scene. Moo grabs Toru and hauls him up, then demands, "Have you really been eating with the cats this whole time?" Toru twitches and snaps, "It's my food." And when Toru asks about his parents, he goes completely silent. Then Toru blurts out that there isn't enough for everyone, especially the homeless, and apologizes. Sarah yanks at his arm with a helpless, pleading stare. He sighs, then admits he'll need to get the owner's permission first. Sarah grabs Mew and tells him to come with her, and Mew blurts out, "Wait, what are you gonna do to me?" Sarah fires back, "Do you not want something good to eat?" Then she straightens up, says her name, introduces Toru, and tells Mew, "You can call me your big sister." Mew finally hears everyone's name, and then messes up Toru's in the worst possible way. Mew blurts out that he's starving, then shoots the kid a warning, "Don't call him that." Then Toru, Sarah, Mew, and 2 other cats finally burst back home, only to find the owner grinning and saying, "You've got some awesome guests with you today." Toru tells them it looks like they've latched onto him. Then he asks the owner if he can stay for a bit and take care of them here. The owner nods, and even asks whether she should heat up their bath. Toru just smiles and says they'd be truly grateful. Mew demands, "Where's the food?" And Tor snaps back that he has to get washed first. Then Mew blurts, "So you really decided to eat me?" And somehow, Mew ends up being a girl. Sarah asks if Restore can scrub the dirt away, and Totru snaps back that he already tried scanning her skill tree, then got a big, empty 0, like she hasn't earned a single point from monsters yet. Sarah promises she'll behave, then they start washing her. Mew bursts out laughing and yells that she's totally ticklish. Sarah pleads with her not to twitch, and Toro goes, "It's weird she doesn't have lice or anything." So Sarah shoots back that the cats didn't have fleas either. Toru spots the scars on Mew's body and can't stop himself from wondering where they came from. Sarah leans in and gushes about Mew's cute purple eyes, and Toru jumps in. "Yep, that's the purple eye tribe for you." Then he lifts the lamp and tells Sarah, "Look right here." Toru says he's crazy good at finding his way in the dark. Sarah beams and blurts out, "It's wonderful." Ural shoves Mew her old stuff back, says she can keep it if she wants, and calls her Moo, and Sarah immediately steps in to correct her. Toro tells you the Violet Eye tribe basically repeats everything in their names, so yep, that's still the right call. He says boys slip in double letters, girls repeat syllables, so her real name has to be something wild like Lelamumu, maybe even Mumalel. He explains they keep this tradition because they treat the thunder god Jujiro like their guardian, and every time they try to cook up names like his, they're really begging for his blessing. Miu darts into a new outfit and turns to Toru, asking how she looks. Toru grins and tells her she finally dressed right, and that it fits her perfectly. They dig in and start devouring everything. Sarah declares she's starving after her noble grind, wishes everyone a pleasant appetite, and then Miu can't take it anymore. So, are we eating yet? They dig in and Miu takes a bite of meat and lights up, yelling that it's delicious. Then Toru snaps, chew it well, no one's touching your food. Sarah nods along with Miu and blurts out, it's downright delicious. Seriously, the ham is the best, in my opinion. She tried to tell Toru she wanted to bring something on the hunt tomorrow, but Toru just shut that down. Chew properly, take your time, and drink water with your food. Sarah obeys, then gulps down the drink, while Yor can't stop thinking, if only Thor had met these kids sooner asterisk. She spots something and shoots Sarah a worried look, asking if she's alright. Sarah blurts an apology, saying she only just noticed, but her ears are way longer than usual. Uriel grins and says, I knew it, she's from the Ashia tribe. Sarah goes, yeah, I thought so, because she's from far away. Toru leans in and says the mistress's homeland is up north, claiming he heard her people's ears grew long to catch sounds across snowy plains. Then Uriel snaps, that's not true. She says it's how they hear the ice god Stragon's teachings, and Toru quickly bows his head and apologizes. Uriel says that's exactly what they're told, because everyone loves teasing them as grey rabbits. Uriel leans in and asks if Sarah knows much about other countries, and Sarah blurts out an apology, admitting they grew up shut inside a village room. Then Uriel smiles and tells her, if you want, I'll let you teach me bit by bit. Sarah shoots back, instantly agreeing, and practically begs him to let her say it. She's insanely grateful. Uriel starts spilling the truth. Centuries ago, a massive hole tore open in the earth, and in one night the whole country vanished into it. From that endless abyss, monsters poured out and the world instantly erupted into total chaos. Long ago, smack in the middle of this continent, a massive super-advanced country ruled in peace, its people thriving and living the good life, until refugees exploded outward, vanishing in every direction to start fresh in the farthest, loneliest corners. Soon, people touched by the powers of the six mighty deities started popping up everywhere, and the central region, where Thor and Sarah live, began to grow with new arrivals, because that whole area is guarded by all six divine powers. Sarah tells everyone she was stunned the first time she saw folks with horns and scales, and now she finally gets where they come from. Tors chimes in that it's mostly because they hardly ever show up in their village. Uriel cornered Toru and demanded to know his future plans, and Toru admitted that at first he'd planned to feed Miu and send her off, but now he thinks he'll keep taking care of her just a little longer. He remembers how his teacher's eyes burned purple, like they held a secret only he could see. Nightfall drifted in quietly, and everything felt perfectly calm. Toru shows up at the armorer Ram's shop, and Ram's face lights up. You've been gone forever. Then he leans in with a grin, asking if Toru's really come looking for something. Toru strides in saying he's here to place an order, then leans in and asks if they're swamped right now. Right behind him, Miu and Sarah have rolled in too. Ramu calls out that most people never treat their gear with care, so they drag it in looking wrecked and demand repairs. He taps Thor's chest with a quick punch and smirks that he takes great care of his stuff. Everything's spotless, perfectly intact. He's got to find out for sure if he really got his order placed. So Toro cuts in, yelling that he's in a rush and desperately needs a brand new pair of shoes. Ramu asks if this is some kind of order, then Toru calls them over and tells them to at least say hello. Sure, the store owner might look a little scary, but he's got everything under control. Sarah greets him and boldly declares she's his future wife, and Ramu just can't wrap his head around how he somehow got married and even had a kid. Toru cuts in fast, saying he's only watching a friend's daughter, and he only grabbed the child yesterday. Ramu fires off a thought and tells Miu, "You're a boy, come here, I'm taking your foot measurements now." But Sarah snaps back, "No, it's a girl." They take the measurements, and Ramu promises he'll leave just enough space for growth, so the boots fit perfectly. Miu fires off, "What's this for?" Toru grins and says, "So your feet won't get filthy." Then Miu leans in, asking if it'll make the soles as soft as a cat's paw pads. Ramu yells that this is his request, and he's going to try a softer material. Toru snaps back that Ramu was just grumbling about that cancelled coat made of hippopotamus skin, and Ramu fires back that he's talking about the coat he never sold. Ramu snaps, asking him straight up if he's really going to haul this kid along on his escapades, and he just won't answer. Ramu flashes a hand sign and demands a chat outside. Then Miu follows him, blinks, and asks what he's doing. Is it some kind of greeting? Sarah steps in and says, "Nope, that gesture means he wants to talk outside." The two step out and Ramu bursts into shouting, "What on earth were you thinking?" Then he snaps into action, ordering gear for a kid who, judging by the looks of it, won't survive a second in real combat conditions, because Ramu knows he won't put up with sloppy work. Toru shoots back that sure, she's tiny, but talent never needs size. And before it even settles, Ramu blurts that he knows she wouldn't lie just to get attention, but right when he's about to talk, Toru cuts in and promises he'll show a trick, then whispers for him not to tell a soul. He grabs the leather armor, and Ramu's instantly panicked, warning it needs serious repairs and not to mess with it. Yet Toru still uses his skill and hands Ramu a fresh, clean set of armor. Ramu can't believe what he's seeing. No scratch, not a mark, and he throws his arms wide like he's celebrating. Mew asks if this is how you greet someone, and Sara grins, saying it just means he finally folded in that argument. Ramu snaps at him that he doesn't understand a thing, and it's obvious now, no trick at all, because the armor is wrecked, in terrible shape, and then he demands to know what Ramu did. Toru shoots back that it's his own skill, he trained for it hard, and now he can pull off moves like that anytime. Ramu blurts out, "Is that true?" Then his face lights up. He cheers at last it happened, that he finally pulled it off, before slapping Toru's back real quick. Then it hits, he snaps back to calm and blurts that he's probably thrilled, because with a setup like this, he could easily drop a good half of his earnings. Toru shoots back that he's not about to go toe-to-toe with them, and he'll keep adventuring right alongside them. He adds that this skill works on humans too, so he's not sweating. Mew won't drop that easily. And then he finally leans in and asks what Mew thinks, and whether he'll take the job. Ramu, smiling like he already knows, promises he'll do something special for her. Then Toru snatches the other armor, swings his hand, and restores it to perfect condition in one shot. Ramu snatches the armor in shock, blurts that the hippopotamus skin damage has vanished too, then demands, "Wait, where'd the patch go?" He gets it might have stitched the split seams back together, but how did he deal with the pieces that tore right out? Toru says his restoration skill can actually bring back some of what's been lost, and he blurts, shocked, "Wait, are you serious?" Then he leans in and starts talking like, what if they could even get dragon skin armor? Then he leans in and insists, "No, it's not that rare, it's the skin of a white ferret." And straight up asks what he thinks of it, because that stuff is insanely valuable. Toru blurts out that his recovery skill isn't unlimited, it has a hard cap, and he tested it by slicing off a horned mole's horn, only for the skill to bring back exactly 30% of what was lost. Sometimes, even a tiny piece is a nightmare to recreate, because he's convinced the brain never holds the final shape, so it treats whatever it has right now as done. Ramu then leans in and asks, so the bigger the armor he stacks up, the bigger the payoff he gets, right? They clasp hands like real brothers, and Mew and Sarah have been glued to the window, watching every second. 4 adventurers crowd into the adventurers' bureau, and the long-haired one leans in to ask Recall, "Did you really hear that the old man we met was something supernatural?" Recall goes, "Wait, are you saying that's true?" The third guy nods and adds, "Yeah, I heard the same thing." Then the rumor hits hard, people even claim he won Brong. The girl scoffs and snaps back, "Nah, that sounds like a fairy tale." The guy claims the girl with him just pulled off some secret skill nobody's ever heard of, then Rickle blurts, "Is it that cute one?" Right as they're talking, Mew's furious scream cuts through the air, demanding to know what kind of place this is, and everyone whips around. Toru strides in carrying a little kid, and the girl blurts, "Where did she come from?" Red-faced, the guy stammers that Sara and Toru are brother and sister, then someone scoffs, "They don't look related at all," before Rickle drops the bomb, "I called him daddy." They don't get it at all and still keep following them, confused and frantic like, what's happening? And maybe, just maybe, it's the stepdaughter. Toru hisses at Mew to keep her voice low, saying this is the Adventurers' Bureau. Mew repeats the name, but then admits the owner basically told her something similar. She wonders if this is really Toru's job, and right then Sarah swoops in, leaning close like a proud teacher. "Don't worry, I'll show you around." Mew spots the bulletin board and asks, "So what's that for?" Sara tells them it's a bulletin board, where people drop what they want and ideas for getting together, and Mew can't wait to ask if she can write on it. Sara says yes on the spot, and Toru doesn't even get a second to object. Mew stretches on his tiptoes, still missing by inches, so Toru scoops him up and checks right away if it feels okay. Mew grins and doodles 5 people onto the board, one bold sketch at a time. They ask her what they're looking at, and she jabs at the biggest one, that's Toru, with Mew standing right there clutching his hand. Then Sarah points to the smaller cats and presses again, "So what about these?" Mew grins and says, "That's Kuro the black cat and Shima, the tabby cat." Sarah jabbed at a person and asked, "Is that her?" The woman snapped, "No, she's the owner." Toriel asked if she was done and then they'd head to the desk. Sarah's voice shook as she worried, "Why isn't she there?" Mew is rushing through adventurer registration, paperwork and all, like it's the first step toward everything he's chasing. The worker asks if she can really handle it, because the paperwork says she's only 9. Then Toru snaps back that, under the official rules, the minimum age for an adventurer is 8. He also swears that she's a magician, and that she won't have to get anywhere near the monsters. The worker snaps that she can't allow this, period, and Toru shoots back. So can you tell me the reason I'm not hearing? She tells him the Purple Eye tribe's lightning magic doesn't branch into a simple basic attack skill at all. So Mew's starting move is that rare electric detection ability. Letting her use that monster detecting skill would basically freeze her progress in development, so she refuses to give it permission. Toru presses her again, is it because I can't earn skill points? And the worker snaps, yeah, that's exactly it. Toru tells the worker, don't sweat it, we'll crack this as soon as we scan her skill tree. But the worker shoots him an annoyed glare like he's done with his excuses. She sets a ball in front of her, then tells her to slap her hand on the analyzer. She reaches out, fingers stretching forward, and touches it. Mew mew mew, then the lightning god slapped down the ancestral tree, crackling with purple lightning. Her go-to skill is Electric Spine. Toru explains it's a passive magic that lets her snap back with counterattacks, racking up points with every hit. The worker nervously claims it'll be fine, then pulls out an adventurous token and hands it over right away, while Mew reaches out his hand to take it. Taurus squeezes her hand the same brotherly way he did with Ramlu, and right after that, he hands her a token. Toru snaps, saying everything's finally ready for the sortie. Then he freezes mid-sentence and demands where Sarah is, only to look over and find her still at the board, drawing away while she slumps against a chair. They close in on her and Toru pushes forward even harder. Sarah says it's all set and insists this is the right move. Mew glances back at the board for one last second, then keeps going. Toru yells at Sarah that they're leaving now, so Sarah bristles, furious, asking when this whole thing even started. On the board, it's Sarah right there, holding Mew's hand with a grin so wide it could light the room. Then she sprints straight toward Thor and Mew. Mew clenches her fists so tight her knuckles flare, then yells that she's totally fine, while Toru stares horrified as a brutal surge of electricity starts to coil around Mew. Sarah blurts out, shocked, what was that? Then gasps, it's so beautiful. Toru grins and names it, an electric spike magic, and says it bites back, firing a counterattack the moment the user gets targeted. Mew says the itching is finally gone, and Sarah immediately chimes in. Looks like you've got rid of those fleas for good. Toru slaps his palm on Mew's head, scans her skill tree, and there it is, ***, electric spike ***. When it strikes the user, it whips right back and counterattacks the enemy. If you hit the recovery switch on an electric spike branch, the bud snaps right back down to 0. Mew was born with that power, and up in the branches, Toru grins as he points out, there are just 3 buds, nothing more. Toru says it's amazing, then tells her to try it while he watches closely through his eyes. She tilts her gaze up, and Sarah studies every move, suddenly getting why Mew would stare right into his eyes. Suddenly, Sarah gets this eerie, familiar chill, and she snaps around, wondering where that same alley feeling is coming from. Mew instantly drops her gaze, and Toru shoots her a worried look. He can't believe it, because just a second ago she was bursting with cheer. Mew blurts out, worried sick, asking if Toru's about to snap at her, while Sarah panics and can't figure out what's even happening. Toru tells her everything will be okay, that he won't be mad at all, and honestly, he's even smiling because you want to do this. Mew presses again, is it really true? Tors drops into a seat, brushes her cheek, and tells her she has nothing to fear, so she can finally look at him again. She grins at him, and in the blink of an eye she's standing right at her own tree, staring like, seriously, what a weird thing to grow here. Toru lets out a relieved smile and says he's happy everything turned out fine, then leans in and asks, so, what do you see down there among the roots? Mew asks if she means that little round thing, and Toru snaps back that it's her special power, feeling exchange, letting her swap feelings and emotions with someone who's always awake and moving. This ability is brutally effective right in your field of vision, so Toru thinks she likely started living with cats because she was terrified of using it. It's nearly impossible to stumble on someone born with a spiritual instrument, and everyone around her had to think the worst the moment they saw her as a kid, like she was a child of evil. They race back into the forest and Toru blurts out, are you okay? But she won't answer, she just snaps into his arms, a sleepy Sarah curled up in the background. Toru tells her, try again, then points out the 3 buds on the trunk, asking if she can see them. And when she says yes, Toru leans in and explains that if she wants the middle bud to rise, she has to pour this vessel of water right onto the roots. Mew obeys, snatches up a massive jug of water, dumps every drop onto the tree's roots, and right after, boom, a fresh branch shoots out and starts growing. Mew blasts out a scream, something weird has sprouted. A branch shaped like an arrow with a curved base, and an electric radar lights up, pointing to the nearby enemies and showing exactly how far they are. Toru leans in and asks if she'll give it a shot, and she beams, saying she'll do it for sure. All the while, Sarah hangs back in the background, watching every second with sharp, curious interest. Mew clenches his fists, shuts his eyes tight, and when he snaps them open, electric arrows erupt everywhere, hitting the trees and streaking right past terrified people. Mew snaps and jabs her finger towards something, shouting that she feels it pulling from that exact spot, and Tori leans in and says he'll go check it out. Sarah snaps, "Wait, what's happening? Why can I use 2 skills now?" Toru whips around, shoves his index finger to his lips and hisses, "Quiet." Sarah leans in and whispers, "Wait, does Mew really have 3 skill buds?" Mew sprints to the spot and yells, "There, look." Toru snatches him up in his arms and thrusts a knife into his hands. Toru snaps at her to lock onto that spinning cannonball and smash it. Mew rockets in, blasts it out of existence, and Toru immediately cheers her on, praising her like, "Great job." Mew asks if she did a good job, and Toru lights up, saying, "Yeah, really, it was great." Then he realizes it's even more convenient than he ever expected, especially since he only has a limited skill. Sarah storms over, pats Mew on the head and says she'll handle him, because her little sister isn't about to lose to anyone, especially not you. Tofu tells Mew you're doing great, but warns that the next step will be brutal. Mew grins and fires back, "No worries, I've got this." Taurus lights up and says, "Awesome," then pushes her back to the tree. "Go on, take another look." Toru tells Mew to go for the top bud this time, and Mew grins, then happily douses the roots with a fresh vessel of water. The bud shoots up, wham, lightning needle blooms from it, and suddenly the user's speed and agility skyrocket. Toru asks her one more time, and Mew is already charging up. She rips the air open and summons a thunderstorm, blasting tiny lightning bolts from her body that cling and crackle right there. Sarah blurts, "That looks unbearable, is it even safe?" Toru snaps back, "How are you?" And Sarah has to answer the real question, "Does it hurt?" Mew says she's totally fine, no pain at all, just this weird little feeling. Toru presses small stones into her hands and tells her to dodge them as he tosses them at her. He flicked them away with a light freeze, one by one, while Mew slipped past every attack with effortless dodges, until she even overshot the final stone, rocking back just in time. Sarah gapes in pure admiration, marveling at how she dodged every single one of them, and Mew throws her hands up, shouting with wild joy that she managed to awaken a brand new power. Torov tells Mew it was an amazing job, and admits he crushed his own expectations. Then Mew tackles him into a tight hug. Toru shoots her a question, "Can you finally pass this power to me?" She answers instantly, "Yes." But then the real challenge hits. How does she make it happen? Toru shrugs and says she's probably never done a reverse swap of feelings before. Then Ta just stares, completely lost on what reverse even means. Toru recalls Sarah's warning about those cats, no fleas at all, and tells her it's true, even with Mew's mange the proof is there. So why weren't those cats covered in that mess? Mew cuts in, yelling that Kuro and Shiro are always right there with her. Toru flashes a grin and asks if she'd be cool enough to share with him too. Then she hesitates, thinking hard before she finally starts moving. Lightning crawls over Toru's body as he snaps that she should shut her eyes, cover her ears, and block her nose, then insists she share only the lightning needle with him, because Mew warns it won't work all at once. She obeys him, shuts her eyes, and keeps her ears on him, then Toru senses it. "That's it," he blurts, grinning like it nailed perfectly. He checks again and at full speed materializes behind Mew, lifting her up like it's exactly where she needs to be. Toru lights up and says, "Awesome, let's start hunting." But Sarah slams the brakes and demands, "Wait a minute, what about me? Am I joining you or what?" Sarah can't wait, but Mew shuts her down, too early for her, and Sarah refuses, demanding Mew let her in too. Mew ignores her, then goes right to Thor and announces, she's hungry. Toru hands her an apple and tells her to munch on it. Then, right behind, Sarah lingers with a crushed, sad face. As night falls, they rush into the Adventurers Guild office and slam a mountain of goblin ears onto the table. The worker gasps, because from where she stands, Toru is hauling in more and more every single day. With electric radar blasting and lightning needles striking, more enemies suddenly poured in, so the hunt sped up like crazy. She plops the money into their hands and tells them it's all laid out. 1 silver coin, 1/2 silver coin, and 37 copper coins. Then they snatch it up and bolt. The worker mutters that lately the whole squad's goblin hunts have been going sideways. Yet somehow, for reasons he can't explain, Toru's crew keeps getting noticeably better at wiping them out. She can't believe it. How is a squad of 50 people supposed to hunt down 50 monsters in a single day, then actually pull off the kills? They head home with Mew sprawled on Toru's back, and Toru tells her that roaming the forest and hunting all day has to be brutally exhausting. Sarah grins and tells Mew he was incredible, then says she pulled off the impossible, flipping between those skills even though she'd only just learned them. But after she uses the inversion skill 3 times, her mana drains out, and panic hits hard as her breathing turns heavy. Toru basically shrugs and says, "There's nothing you can do. Your mana reserves and your inclinations don't match, and it all depends on what kind of magic you're using." Just like Mew's electric spikes that wiped out her fleas, she likely kept zapping herself non-stop, training her power every time those sparks hit. He insists inversion won't work unless a monster comes for her, but the second it does, Sarah turns into a whole other kind of beast. Sarah tells him, I can carry Mew too, and throws in, Toru's probably wiped out. He thanks her, reassures her everything's fine, and promises, if I start feeling tired, I'll let Toru know. Sarah leans in and tells him, you can count on me, and then she admits she just wants peace with Muyu. Toru agrees and blurts that it's crazy she's the only one she hates, then shoots out the idea that maybe she swapped emotions with girls her age before, and whatever happened back then left a nasty scar between them. Toru tells Sarah to slow down and stop rushing, just breathe and relax. Sarah agrees, says he's right, and thanks him for worrying about her. Toru tells Sarah he's got a favor and she can't wait. Sure, what is it? Then he asks if she slept with the cats last night, and Sarah goes, yeah, they showed up to me, and I was so overwhelmed I couldn't sleep. Toru blurts, what if I trade Mew for 2 cats? And Sarah says, they followed Mew right into your room at first, but halfway through the night, they started clawing at my door like they knew something was off. Sarah isn't totally sure, but she thinks it went down just like that. Then she blurts out, come on, Mew and me and the cats, we're all sleeping in my room. Since her room's packed and there's no space left, Sarah crashes at Toru's place. But Toru shuts that down fast, saying his bed is way too small, and sleeping there would be pure misery. Sarah blares at him, calling him a liar, because she knows Thor can drop off and sleep anywhere, so they head straight toward Ural's house. In the border town of Didon, crowds gather at the main gate, cheering as the troops march out. At Shoya's place, Toru heard the bombshell. Every top-ranking officer had been shipped to Bozalia to run the operation and bring her back. In the Goblin Forest, all 3 push deeper into the hunt. Every step Toru takes is shielded by Mew's magic, and before long they wipe out several caterpillars. Mew finally grills him, did you take care of everyone? And he fires back, yeah, I handled them and it's over. He says hunting those huge caterpillars is basically like waging war on mange, and that's exactly why the electric shield came in clutch. Sarah tells Mew to ditch the fur right now, and begs her to help start a fire. Then Mew snaps back that she's busy at the moment. She finally pops up and reaches for the white fur before Sarah can even warn her. One touch, and it's gonna itch like crazy. Mew jolts and yelps that she's itchy all over, then grabs Toru's hand and begs with that pitiful look, as recovery clears her itch from head to toe. Mew says things are way better now, and Toru snaps back that she needs to listen to Saru, because Saru goes, Toru, you're acting like a real dad now, then leans in like it's obvious and asks if it's time he finds a nice wife. Toru shrugs off what she says, grins at Mew, calls it awesome, and then pushes him to handle that white fur. They strike a flame and warn Mew, don't you dare get burned. Then Toru proves a brutal truth, jam a branch into the fire, and the fire will instantly grab it and spread. She grabs the stick, then freezes in surprise. Next, they slide the tracks into the cart, and Sarah shoots a worried look, asking if the cart can even haul 3 at once. Torio tells him it's only a rental, and the magic stone's rank is way too low, but still, try pulling it instead of hauling it in your arms. Toru spots Toru's gloomy face and blurts, what's wrong? Is it really the caterpillars stealing her focus? He figures she's mulling over whether caterpillar meat is actually tasty, and she straight up confirms it. Toru tells her, let's get home first. If you're worn out, I'll carry you, and Mew lights up with pure joy. They race to the gate, and Carlos is waiting there. He grabs him with a sharp question, where'd he even find this little girl? Because just yesterday, he wasn't on guard at all. Sarah steps up and greets him, then thanks him again for all his hard work. Carla can't help but gush that Sarah is still as sweet as ever, and she asks if Sarah wants to grab dinner with him. Sarah lights up and calls it a brilliant idea. She says everyone will love it, while Carlos shuts it down, saying there's no need to get so overly familiar. Mew snaps awake and blurts, are we home yet? And the first thing she locks onto is Carlos' eyes. Carlos shoots back, what's happening? Like he can't even process it, and aren't you from around here? Carlos clobbers her in the forehead, and the second it lands, rage explodes. She snaps, screams at him about how he's a stupid creep, and rips into what he's doing to me. Carlos tells her, call me Mr. Carlos, and she's like, wait, how does he even know Mew's name? Suspicion spikes, and Toru just shrugs and agrees. Toru storms ahead, roaring that they'll meet again, while Carlos hurls after him, yelling, we're not done yet. So the Bureau hands them 2 silver and 18 copper coins, and it's been a full week since the group with Sarah was formed. During that time, they managed to pocket 5 silver coins, while he stacked the exact same amount in his bank account. It's basically the same deal with skill points. He and Sarah have around 150, Mew's sitting at about 70, and if they keep pushing at this pace, they'll slam their skills up to level 2 in roughly 2 months. They stride past the stalls, and Mew yells that there's food everywhere. Then Toru snaps back that it's all for sale, and she can't taste a single bite without money. Mew hears they're short on money and snaps, calling them savages, and Toru, stunned, blurts out where on earth she learned that word. Sarah swings in with a hot kebab, shoves it into Thor's hands, and before anyone can blink, she takes a huge, hungry bite and savors it like she owns the moment. Then she hands him a single skewer and asks him where to get it. Thor fires back, asking where she bought them. Stunned, she actually knows the place. Mew grins and blurts that it's insanely delicious, and Sarah laughs back that this place is packed with tasty stuff. Then the world goes quiet as Thor stares at them. Toru blurts that a bathhouse is just nearby, and tells Sarah they should hit it together later, but Sarah freaks out instantly and yells that she is absolutely not ready. Toru can't figure her out, so he shrugs that they're just going to wash up. Then Sarah snaps back. Boys, he knows girls already have enough worries. After a beat of silence, Toru finally shoots back that if she's saying it, then they're turning around. And then he adds, casually ruthless, that they should bring along a mistress once the horses have finished their snack. They finally stumble up to a building, and Mew's jaw drops when he realizes it's a bathhouse. Then the girls split up, and Toru tells them they'll catch up later. Mew starts fighting back, and Sarah yells for her to turn the other way, but Mew screams at the top of her lungs that she wants to go with Toru. They quickly swap into fresh clothes, and Uriel snaps, wrap a towel around yourselves. Right as Sarah starts the move, Uriel's grip is gone. She vanishes in an instant. Mew stands by the pool and shrugs like it's no big deal, then asks, do I really have to get in there? He tries to slip one foot in, and instantly winces because the heat is brutal. She rips into her anger-powered ability, dives straight into the water, and screams that she's not about to lose. Sarah lunges in from behind, whispers that they've got to wash first, and then they hop onto stools and start scrubbing right away. Sarah and Mew beam as they help each other, rubbing backs, pouring water non-stop. Then Sarah blurts that they're stuck in the foam again, and Mew grins, saying bathing is pure fun. They both laugh, and Sarah jumps in to help right there with her. Before long, they're plopped right down in the pool, and Sarah stares off like something's missing, because it's only been a week since she came back to this world, yet it feels like a massive, gaping void is chewing at her. Every day she trudges into the forest, and the exhaustion hits hard. Yeah, it wrecks her routine, but it's not fixing the emptiness. She had no more questions left. Only one person mattered to her now, the one who stayed, the one who mattered most. Sarah watches Mew glide through the water, then asks if she loves her little sister. Mew just hesitates and admits she doesn't know. Sarah says she gets it, and that she loves her sister more than anything, while Mew snaps back, I don't hate you. Mew spots a fan and blurts, what is that? Sarah grins and says, it's a fan, and for 5 copper coins you can set a magic stone in it. Then boom, it'll blast for 5 whole minutes. They're messing around near the fan, and Uriel swings over, hands them apple juice, then laughs and drinks it right along with them. They slip out of the bathhouse, and Uriel rushes over to apologize to Thor for making him wait, only for Thor to say, I just stepped out too. Then Thor leans in and asks if Mew's been good. Mew starts to admit the opponent is insanely strong, but she vows she won't lose next time. Sarah chimes in that it feels like she's been reborn, and she's going to give it everything tomorrow. Toru tells her that's a lie, because tomorrow's a day off, right? Wait, did he forget to tell her that? Later, inside the house of Uriel, a man steps up to Thor, drops into a bow, and begs for forgiveness as he asks to help, because it's his teacher, Daden. Toru asks if that's really what he wants in the end. Daden snaps back that when he begged the temple of the earth god Gidoros to restore the stone wall, they demanded a payment of 10 gold coins. Dodon steps in and asks for a favor, then promises he'll hand over every single device he took from the magic stones he used. Toru demands why they drop a request like this out of nowhere, and Dodon snaps back that 9 years have already crawled since the monsters wrecked the city. People are slowly wiping it from their minds, and they don't feel a single shred of danger anymore. Toru snaps back to what happened 9 years ago, nods like he's seeing it all again, and warns that fixing it in one giant sweep would be a disaster, so they start with first aid first. Daden grins and cheers that she's got him to rely on. He says the main forces have finally launched an expedition to Bozalia, and fresh reports are already pouring in. Toru asks if the goblin count has suddenly shot up, and when Daden hears it, he's stunned and fires back, asking if Toru even knows where that rumor came from. Even with that electric radar working perfectly, the goblin count lately has been downright weird. Daden says he knows it's wrong to wait until disaster strikes, but still, so he can protect the people of this city, he's not scared to humiliate himself. Toru tells him, relax, I was the one who brought it up. Then he leans in and asks, so Daden, do you mind if I go now? Daden just waves it off and says, nope, you can go. Daden tells Sako he stayed with him that day, but his guilty conscience wouldn't leave him alone. Nightmares hit, and he even dreamed his hair kept growing wild. Didon stayed there all day, then finally came back, and everything's calm now, so he hands the restoration over to Tora and walks out. Sorrow hit the shops with the owner, so Toro got shoved into action. He had to rebuild the wall with Mew. They slam up to the wall, and Toru blurts that it's even worse than he feared. Then he tells Mew, I'm going to check, and orders her to stay close, don't wander off. Mew snaps to it, climbs onto the flying board and declares, "Now I'm moving like the wind." Toru figures that without a teacher, even a kid made of that special silver can't reach the form they need, so he stares at the wall, wondering where he's even supposed to begin. A giant outer wall, carved into a horsehoof shape, juts to the east and wraps tight around the whole city. Past the gate in the lower city, the entrance sits right there. On your right lies a goblin forest. On the flip side, the main gate looms ahead, staring straight at the road running right in front of the city. Inside, it splits into two zones, inner and outer, separated by a moat with bridges spanning the gap. But if anyone ever storms the outer walls, those bridges get shattered on sight. Toru hauls in a wooden ladder and grins, saying it's perfect, and he's going straight for the worst hit parts first. Only cities that monsters have smashed again and again ever get hit this hard. Using recovery won't let you lurk in the shadows, and you can't blanket a huge area all at once. He stretches his hand toward that massive crack and vows he'll begin by restoring the hole to how it was 10 years ago. Then, somehow, it works. Anyone can spot the difference. He doesn't think anyone would go that far, but if someone found out, it would be a disaster. Maybe he should shrink the whole thing down to only the damaged area. He grins, thinking there's no way to perfectly bring back every huge missing fragment, but the wall piece now looks rock solid, and the cracks have finally sealed up, so yeah, that's already a win. Toru says if it keeps going like this, I'm gonna have to fire that skill again and again, but right now I need options, multiple targets, like right now. But yeah, using it on multiple targets only works in rare situations. When you split the power, the impact gets weaker, but once you master the rhythm, you can wipe out multiple monsters in one go. Toru says wishing for what you can't have is pointless, but maybe it's still worth a shot, starting right now. He relied on restorations everywhere. Remember that hunt for huge caterpillars from yesterday. That nasty itch vanished fast, like it never happened. Toru figured out that if he searched his own mind with keywords, he'd uncover tons. And as he spoke out loud, it sounded like he was describing something flawless. He senses the wall's presence in the moment, snaps it back to life, and fixes around 50 steps. Mew sprints over to him, Cat's trailing behind, and asks if he's finally done with his work. Then Toru tells him he has to wait until the recovery uses count updates, so she can run off and play again. She keeps grinning as she plays, and Toru yanks out his sword, saying if he's stuck waiting anyway, he might as well test out this iron one. He whips the blade in sharp swings. He's hit with that gritty itch of a vetch, and it slams him with one conclusion. It's nothing like a wooden sword. If he couldn't take it, he wouldn't be able to move an inch more. So he drove through it with raw momentum, threw more swings, and finally slammed the training to the end. After a while, he blurts out that some miracle let him finish restoring the northern wall in a single day. Now the southern wall is next, but he's got to crash and rest first. He shows up at Mew's place and tells everyone they're heading back. Then they roll in home to find the hostess and Sarah already cooking up dinner. They drop into their seats at the table, and right under it the cats swarm and munch, chattering like crazy as they grin, argue, and then dive straight into their food. After some time, they stumble into a forest, and Toru grins, telling them, "Today, we're hunting an armored boar." Sarah beams and calls it wonderful, saying it sounds like an amazing party. Then Mew bursts out with confidence that Toru can hand it all over to her. Toru tells you armored boars are massive beasts that grow to about a man's shoulder, so this isn't some pushover, this enemy hits back hard. His only real trick is a level 1 smokescreen, and when it comes to damage, his magic and martial arts barely scratch the surface. Usually, you need a level 2 or 3 skill to beat him, but you can crush him if you study his moves first, because taking him down turns you into a C-rank F. Mew tells Toru she understands him, and boom, Toru's record turns blue. Then Mew grins and says she wants one too. Toru laughs and goes, yeah of course, everyone does. And the second she hears that, Mew charges straight into work. She switched on an electric radar and hunted the armored boar for 2 full hours. Mew blurts out, "Is this a boar's den?" And Toru instantly clamps a hand over her mouth. Sarah snaps back, "No way, it's probably a goblin den," and then they realize they're finally pushing out of it. Toru spots a hobgoblin mixed in with the regular goblins, and Sarah just can't figure out why, until Toru leans in and tells her they're a goblin subspecies, hardly ever seen on the surface, and if this keeps going, a whole procession is probably on the way. Goblins just keep pouring out, more and more every second, and yeah, this has gotta be that dungeon. Mew blurts out, "What's a dungeon?" And Toru snaps back, "It's a massive pit in the ground where monsters with real power lair. It's basically a vibe of the Great Abyss, an outpost built to expand someone's power, and down in its depths lies the infamous black hole. Every dungeon hides one, an eerie black hole, and one theory claims it's the same doorway that links straight to the Great Abyss. The labyrinth is guarded by its lord, and a choking miasma pours from the black hole. If nobody stops it, the monsters will just keep multiplying, so Mew grabs Toru and tells him, "This is an invasion." Taurus insists it's the truth, and warns the invasion could strike for a second reason too. If those monsters on the surface aren't wiped out, the land that can support life will shrink, and everything collapses from there. If every dungeon monster crashes the party and floods the land, sweeping territory from the surface folk, you're looking at a full-on double invasion. Mew fires the question, "Will you fight them?" And Taurus snaps back, "No," insisting it's hopeless since just the two of them can't possibly take down a whole horde of goblins. He tells them all that right now, their only move is to contact the closest sawmill. There are 3 hidden out in the forest, but they've got just enough time to warn every single one. Toru says all right, urging them to bolt back fast. Sarah shoots back, "Let's hurry," and Mew just shrugs. Either way works for him. Toru strikes a mysterious triangle. Mew grabs him and demands what it is. Toru smirks and says it's a reward for fixing the wall, a fiery blend packed into an igniting cylinder, and monsters can't stand the stench of that incendiary mixture. He swears it'll work like a charm on hobgoblins too, then hurls a rock straight into their lair. Panic hits the goblins hard as they whirl around, and Toru blares, "Girls, run, in one direction now." Right now, all 4 of them are hunting too. Hisoku keeps telling Rikaru once again, "We're not ready for this." Rikaru snaps back, "Yeah, it's way faster to strike first." Hisoku claims they somehow pulled it off last time, but this next run could go terribly, and Rikaru snaps back that he's just scared, because if you never try, you'll never find out. The girl blurts out a string of curses and snaps, "How much longer are we doing this? This constant mess, she can't stand it." The girl whips around to the third guy, Susan, and declares, "You're the leader, now go on, say something." Susan snaps that there's nothing left to do, so let her walk out on them, because that's just how guys are. Even with all those brutal words flying around, this squad wasn't like that at first. Susan gets why they're fed up and steaming with irritation. A few days back, a brand new girl stormed into the squad, and on her very first day, she crushed it so hard everyone's jaws dropped. And ever since, the whole vibe in the squad has shifted. People can't stop talking about Sarah. Rikaru and Hisoku, childhood best friends, tore out of the village together, and in a border town they ran into the magician Alicia. 6 months have passed since their squad was formed. If they just clenched their teeth and pushed harder, a cushy, high-status life would have been waiting for them. Except the truth was, they hadn't started out with any real standout talent at all. Suddenly the ground starts to quake, and right in front of them, an armored boar comes charging into view. They all panic as the monster snarls and locks in its attack. Then Hisoku blurts, "Is it an armored boar?" And the thing growls back that this one is way bigger than normal, and it's got more legs than it should. Rikaru surged forward, and Shisen shouted for him to stop, roaring that he couldn't beat him. So Rikaru fired back, yelling that he'd take him down. The monster lunges at him. He springs up and hacks with his sword. Then he feels the sting as it actually manages to scratch him back. Ricardo gets slammed backward by the monster's snout and crashes into a tree, mouth spilling blood, while the other 3 scream his name in terrified panic. Ricardo whips around with a shaky, convulsive voice and begs them, voice breaking, just to run. The monster barrels in, stomping straight at them, and Sesen snaps his shield up while shouting, "Run," to the others. Hisoku starts shaking uncontrollably, locks up on the spot. Sisen bolts away, dragging the animal with him, and Alicia sprints straight to Ricard. Sism figures that if he can take a couple hits from those attacks, he'll buy them just enough time. Alicia launches a healing spell at Rikaru, then begs him to talk to her, but he just glares into nowhere, silent and unreachable. Odesha screams that the first level of healing water can't touch him. Then a new sound hits, and she whips around. He realizes the monster's fangs slid through his shield and drove straight into Season's chest. Then the thing jerks its head, trying to rip it back out. Sison clings to his fang with one hand, barely able to talk, begging for help. Then suddenly he slips, tumbles off the fang, smashes into a tree and lands face first. Alicia breaks into frantic sobs, shaking like she can't breathe, because she swears the monster is staring straight at her. Rakaro suddenly rises, barking, "Run," as she clutches him tight and screams, "I'm not leaving you." The monster barrels toward them, then bam, an arrow slams into its forehead, and Hisoku, shaking like crazy, is the one who fired it. The monster whips around toward him, and Elysia's scream rips the air. "Run." He releases an arrow the instant Elysia shields Rakara, but his legs refuse to budge, because once again, he can't move. The monster slams Hisoka down and crushes his bow and arrows, and as Shisen screams his name, tears explode from his eyes. Hisoku lies on the ground, shattered, broken limbs, no mercy. Shisan whips her head back at her comrades, remembering how they were bickering just minutes ago, and now she can't make sense of it. She used every last drop of her magic, and she knows this is the last time. She reaches out and heals Rikaru, then whispers the words that pour a single drop of water into her children's hands, because they're fighting tooth and nail for the Lord of the Tree of Life. The monster whips around to face them. Alicia springs to her feet, praying she at least managed to save Rikaru. Then she staggers toward the thing, fear punching through her chest. Rikaru spots a shadow ahead and swears it's the god of death. Meanwhile, Alicia clamps down on her weapon. Then, whoosh, someone's hand lands on her shoulder. Toru tells her she crushed it, swears everything's gonna be okay now, and the moment she hears it, she breaks into tears. Ricardo rises up and demands to know what happened. Alicia swivels her gaze around. Then Toru yells to Sarah that he's dumping them on her, and Mew immediately asks to borrow some power from him. Sarah obeys him on the spot, and Mew rips open a thunderstorm. Then Toru rockets forward, closing in fast on Hisoka. Alicia spots that he's alive and stares at them with burning hope. Then Toru barrels past the monster, grabs Season, and brings him back to life, and Season locks eyes with him and recognizes him. Toru surges forward and slashes the armored boar with his sword, but the blade skids off and leaves the monster unhurt. Toru tells himself that if this keeps up, the Thunder Needle will finally die down. Then he locks in and rips through ideas for what to do next. He whips around and spots a tree, sprints for it and scrambles up the trunk, until his strength crumbles and he realizes the Thunder Needle's power has finally fizzled out. He drops out of the hollow and bolts with everything he's got, slamming his hand against a tree for support. Then the boar suddenly gets trapped, pinned hard between the trees. Nobody knew what that was. Elysia demanded an explanation, asking what just happened when that ancient tree moved like that. Then Mew burst out, shouting at Thor that he was insane, faster than the Thonga storm itself. Toru freezes at how strong he feels, staring at his shaking palm, while Rikaru turns to Elysia and demands answers. She drops to the ground, wrecked, then bursts into tears, saying she has absolutely no idea what just happened. Rikaru's stuck in panic, while Mew soothes her with gentle head strokes, and Toru drives a blade straight into the armored boar. Its furious groan hits like thunder. Toru's convinced it's a full-on armored boar, until he sees just how massive it is, and then those legs hit him like, yeah, this thing is real. Then Sissin storms up to him, begs for forgiveness, and thanks him for saving them, while Toru shrugs it off and tells him, don't sweat it, I was just hunting you. Sissin blurts out why Toru saved them, but Toru just lifts his index finger to his lips, shushing him hard like, don't ask, stay quiet. Sezin blurts out another apology, and Toru snaps back that no matter how you spin it, this thing has way too many legs. Sezin nods like, yeah, and says it's no ordinary armored boar. What they're seeing are special species because he's run into one before. If you don't hunt the monsters, their numbers explode, their shrinking habitats push them into mutations, and the brutal, battle-trained survivors become what they call special species. Toriotl Shissen tells them, we found a goblin cave earlier, and then boom, they just started spilling out all at once, and he can't hide his shock. Toru asks Hisoku if he can help, while Rikaru shrugs and wonders if it's really that big a hassle. Then Hisoku nods and says, yeah, it's exactly that kind of problem. Alicia grills Sissin for his thoughts, and he doesn't hesitate. He boldly says he's going with Toru, and they all quietly nod like it's already decided. Toru blurts that they need to get out first. This is the armored boar's turf period. Sarah shoots back, are we really leaving our prey right here? Then Mew leans in and asks, so you don't want to eat the meat, Toru? Toru tells Mew, we'll pick you up on the way back, so come with me, and Mew grins, I can't wait to get back. Up ahead you've got lumber mills to the northeast and southeast, plus one more tucked along the forest path. Then they all converge there, and Toru blurts out, this is perfect. He shouts at the others to push for the southern sawmill, and the three of them race straight to the northern one. A man runs up, grinning when he spots Toru, until he blurts out what's happening. Goblins are crawling out of a cave nearby, and it's deadly. His smile snaps into pure panic, and he erupts in terror, shouting that this can't be. The man blasts a loud signal, screams that they're out of the cave, and orders everyone to evacuate. Then he warns that an invasion is seconds away, and the city has to know, so they fire up signal smoke right then. Toru yells at them to run, promising they'll handle everything else, and the guy screams back as they go like, so you're counting on us. From far away, they spot the second signal, and Tora's eyes widen as she realizes Sinon's crew pulled it off too. The man yells that he can already see the wall, so nobody gets to rest, because they're right there, almost at it. Toru's sure he told them, but the watchtower never lets out that blue smoke signal, and with half the guards yanked to Bozalia, you can feel the plan slip off its rails. Toru tells the girls that you're real hits 100 times harder, so he's begging them to stick with her. Nayu stares at Toru with sad eyes and says, Toru, you've got something you need to handle, so be a good girl and wait here for me. Mikyu asks to tag along. Toru snaps back that he'll be back after it's all done, and then he leaves Sarah to handle it on her own. Mew stays silent and drops her gaze with a heavy sigh, and Toru grabs her cheeks, murmuring, good girl. They tear off in separate directions as Toru bolts away, and Sarah yells for him to stay safe. At the gate, Carlos catches up and demands to know where the old man went. She shoots back that Taurus told him he had something urgent to handle. Carlos erupts in outrage, because it couldn't possibly wait until a better time. Carlo warns that red smoke spells trouble, and right after that, Mew barrels into his leg, cart and all. Carlos is writhing in pain as he asks what she's doing, but Mew snaps back and tells him to get lost, calling him a suspicious creep. Then she orders him to leave his sister Sarah alone, and Sarah awkwardly blurts out that everything's totally fine. Sarah screams it's still a disaster. Those goblins keep flooding out of the cave. Carlos tells her that can't be possible. This cave was sealed off 10 days ago. If someone was gearing up for an invasion, they'd need at least another month to make it happen. Carlos can't even wrap his head around the idea that the old man could be wrong about something like this. Then he blurts out, "Things are really bad, because the boys from the South Sawmill still haven't come back." Carlos starts blurting that blue smoke is in the air, so if anything happened to him on the way back. He jerks up out of nowhere and yells at Sarah to run, "We've got to hurry." But she snaps back that he should wait, swearing she'll help. Carlos asks what Sarah's even talking about, and she insists she can't go there. Then he fires back that she's still a kid. She hasn't even been an adventurer for 10 days, and if it's an invasion, he won't risk bringing her. Then he adds, "And if I take her with me, that old man will beat me to a bloody pulp." Sarah stays put, burning with the hope that she can at least guide everyone through the forest. Sarah snapped her gaze to Mew and said she had stuff to handle, so could Mew please head home alone? Mew snaps her head side to side and shuts that whole idea down, saying there's no point even talking about it, because she can't follow what the other person is trying to say. Mew tells her Saru trusted Toru to me, so it's my job, and before long, both of them dive straight into the forest to help whoever they can. Sarah gestures toward the outer gate, and everyone else bolts in full panic, yelling hurry, like the guards are already on their heels. Sarah steps up and asks what went down, and the man spots her G-rank badge. Then he snaps, "You two get inside," because there's a huge boar in there and he thought they were finished. They slammed it as their own fault, because they never trusted the four who came to warn them, so when trouble hit, they ran out of time and escaped too late. Someone swore that in the end, one of them cracked the shield wide open, and the moment they spotted the smoke signal from the second point, they knew it was real. Then they bolted in pure panic. Right after they caught sight of the outer walls, a gigantic boar crashed in, so the four traveling with them had to shove all the danger onto themselves, drawing its rage just long enough to barely slip away. Sarah blurts out, all fired up, "So what happened next?" And he shoots back, crushed, "If only I knew." Still, he's about to march to the gate guards and pray that his words might somehow help. Sarah opened her mouth to speak, but the man cut her off and smirked that if they want to blame someone, fine still. That's the whole job of adventurers. Sarah snaps that it drives her insane when she can't do anything, and Mew shrugs that she feels nothing at all. She's just following Toru's orders. Sarah grins and tells Mew, "You're such a good girl," then reaches out to pet her head, right as she spots a stubborn cowlick sticking up in her hair. She reaches out to him and Mew snaps into a blood-curdling scream. Sarah panics and blurts out, "Are you hurt?" Mew shakes her head fast, gasping, "No, I'm okay. It's just this weird feeling." She starts scratching that little curl, bursts into laughter, and asks if he likes it, while Mew can't stop smiling because she absolutely loves it. Mew tells her she can keep going, but Sarah quickly prods her head and says there's a second one. Sarah leans in and grills Mew, asking if it's really true that they get along so insanely well. Mew just nods and says, "Yeah, it's true." Sarah drops into a squat and asks if she can try that same union, then fires him a quick, "Look here," because her appeal is clearly getting more powerful by the second. She longs to say, "I love you" the right way, and when Mew asks if Sarah will resent her after they become one, she snaps back, "No, I won't." Mew quips, "Won't you even get mad when it's awful?" And Sarah shoots back, "Mad? Not at all, I won't get angry, period." Suddenly, terrified people burst out of the trees, and right behind them charges a hulking, armored boar. Everyone goes on high alert. Just as the monster was about to crush one person, Sarah fired off her appeal. Then the creature slammed straight into the barrier, shattering its face. Sarah screams at the man to sprint for his life, and he breathlessly thanks her for saving him. Then the monster drags itself up, and Sarah snatches the cart's rope, yelling at Mew to hang on tight. They bolt, and Mew screams at everyone that the boar's risen. Right then, magic stones explode out of those sleds, and Sarah can't even spare a second. There's zero time to stress about the stones. They all sprint to the gate with nothing left but raw will, as the guards barks orders for them to hurry, because the monster is nearly on their heels and panic is swallowing every breath. They burst through the threshold. Sarah finally exhales in relief and tells Mew they pulled it off, only for Mew to be nowhere in the sleigh. Right as Rikaru yanked the boar's attention so everyone else could bolt, Hisoku popped out of the nearby bushes and unleashed arrows straight into the monster's face. Sinon crouched behind another tree, gripping his weapon tight, and as he prepped, Toru's words hit him again. This upgraded armored boar has more legs, so it bolts even faster, and those sharp turns, they're brutal to pull off. Sinon hurls a rock at the boar, convinced that if she uses it like a shield, they can slip out of the attack and dodge clean. Sinon admits it, fighting a fully armored boar face-to-face is still flat-out impossible for them. So all they've got to do is buy enough time, just long enough for the sawmill workers to get away, then they have to make it out and survive too. Suddenly, Carlos bursts into view, shoots off an apology for making them wait, and promises that he'll take care of him from here on out. The other three burst out of the bushes and celebrate Carlos' arrival, but the monster surges straight at him. Carlos rips into its leg, then shatters the other, and the final spear drives clean into its mouth. Carlos snaps that this isn't the moment to open that giant pig's snout, because this is it. Then he hurls his spear at the monster like the final blow. Suddenly, a blinding electric burst slammed to life, shocking Carlos to the core. His spear got fried and drove straight into the monster's face, leaving it shattered and wiped out. Carlos grins and the other kids surge and close. He insists the invasion is nothing but a rumor, then orders them to clear out, because if they don't, they'll miss the festival. Meanwhile, Sarah tears through the area, panicking as she begs everyone, "Have you seen a kid? Any kid?" The man shakes his head and says, "I haven't seen her since we all passed through the outer gate." Sarah panics and slams her fist into the gate, then fear freezes her mid-action and it whispers, "What are you doing? Do you really want to wipe them all out?" Sarah chokes out the truth. Mew is gone. Rickon bumps her aside and puts on an act like he actually cares. Then he swings the gate shut, and Sarah snaps at him to wait. Ree tells her go ahead if you want to die, but warns her not to pull them into it. Then Sarah snaps, Mew's still outside. Rickon snaps at her and she still tries to open the gate. But don't be reckless, even a fool can see what happens next if she opens it, and it's probably way too late, because there's a good chance she's been dead for ages. Strangers rush in, yelling that they remember his name, then slap down a warning, "Watch his tongue, or else." Another yells that he fought to shut the gates, only to admit he knew they were still standing, while Rickon scrambles to claim he was trying to save the city, and everyone shuts him down. His job is to hunt monsters. They're furious and insist that Sarah, the lady, saved them. Then they snap at Rickon that he's getting paid a fortune, so stop slacking and do your job right, because he's been lounging around all day. The second guy bellows, "I used to be an adventurer, so deal with that boar alone." But Rika stammers back, "No, he's just a shield bearer, he can't take it by himself." Rickon bolts from the gate, and the townspeople stampede after him. Then Sarah suddenly realizes Mew is summoning a thunderstorm. She pops up fast, slams the big gate, and calls out to Mew, begging to know if she's there. While Sarah catches only one thing, her promise to protect her little sister. Sarah clung to the words Toru handed her, and when the gate shut, Mew sprang off the sled to lighten the load, so not a single sound slipped out. Sarah's body starts to shake as tears spill out, and she cries that it's all her fault. She didn't listen to Thor, and she didn't run to the city from the very start. Sarah barrels to the gates and yells at Mew that she needs to talk, just for a little while, just once, because she wants nothing more than to become one with her. They hear battle roaring and Sarah's losing it. She screams and begs because if this keeps going, she's going to die. Then it clicks. Mew is firing off his electric spike now, but she refuses to quit. She fights to survive no matter what. Sarah yells again, fired up that there are still tons of fun stuff they haven't even touched, like trying every last food stall menu. Then she grabs her point and pushes for the bat house, begging to go again so she can stroke her curls once more. Suddenly, Mew grabs Sarah's attention and asks if she's talking about the things she just ironed. Sarah snaps back, "Yeah, that's them," and then threatens, "I'll iron you as much as I want." She shoots the question again, "When we become one, will you hate me?" And Sarah screams, "No way, you've given me 0 reasons to hate you." Mew asks Sarah if she'll get tired of her, and if she'll ever be cruel to her, but Sarah snaps, screaming that it will never, ever happen. Mew says that when her mom was cruel to her, she couldn't stop crying. She remembers every painful second. Sarah snaps back, swearing she'd never say something like that, and she'd never, ever be cruel to her. She tells her Toru has always been there to save you, now it's your turn. If Mew wants to go anywhere, I'll go with her, and I'll pull Toru right along. With tears streaming down her face, Sarah presses her feelings into Mew. She loves her more than anything. Then, after a beat, a tiny puff of smoke starts curling up from under the gate. Sarah snaps into it and starts digging like her life depends on it, scooping up dirt and hurling it aside while she yells Mew's name again and again, until her fingers finally reach out and meet Mew's palm. Sarah reaches out, calls for Mew, and finally makes contact with her. Then, the moment her hand touches, a bizarre rush crashes over her. Now Sarah locks eyes with what Moose sees, right as a boar charges her at full speed. She fires off the appeal instantly, and the monster slams into the barrier, blood spurting from its mouth. The monster barrels on, slamming into the next attack. Sarah yanks out that same appeal again, and right there, the boar's fangs start to split and crack. On her third try with the appeal, the monster's fangs just vanish, Then the boar's muzzle rips clean off its body and drops lifeless to the ground. The man chokes down air, staring as the monster finally crumples, and she can't stop wondering, did he just die too? She grabs the stick, cracks it against her face, and flashes a grin. Then she pops back up, yells that she's won again, and basically declares with full confidence that she's insanely strong. Beyond the gate, an utterly spent Sarah stares into the chaos, and finally realizes it was her who brought him down. Then her strength snaps and she collapses, passed out. An hour and a half after that smoke signal lit up the sky, Harrison's flag snapped up on the clock tower, and the guild members started streaming in. With a swarm of top-ranked adventurers storming out to retake Bosalia, around 30 ranged fighters and gatekeepers snapped into defensive positions on the wall. Another 40 adventurers banded up into a tight close combat squad, then burst out of the gate to smash back with a ruthless counterattack. Below E-rank gatekeepers and a swarm of low-ranking adventurers packed the city square, bracing themselves, ready to pounce the moment the gates or walls got breached. A commander bursts onto the scene and tells everyone the northern gate just lit up. So many enemies have been detected that it's outright terrifying. They crane their heads down, and there it is, a whole swarm of goblins, storming through the ground on armored boars, while caterpillars and a bunch of crawling monsters slither around like it's their personal battleground. The boars slam into the wall with a furious roar, while the slugs and caterpillars brace themselves against it, holding the line so the goblins can scramble up. A guy lunges down and yells that he'll take care of those awful goblins, and the second one screams back, warning him not to be reckless or stick his head out like that. The very next second, the goblin hurls a stone straight at his head, bam, and the blast rips him away. Slugs snatch people by the legs, panic explodes, and with one brutal tug they haul them down, then they finish them off at the bottom. They scream that it's been way too long since anyone's been in a real fight, and he yells that they should clean this place up fast. Then he snaps that the enemy's got more bodies, so they can't waste a second holding back. Stop them, he roars, with everything you've got. They follow his command without question, because with enemy numbers piling up, multiple mages slam their spells together, and the earth mages snap a magnetic earth shield into place, turning the goblins, thrown stones into a whole wall of protection. Right when the moment opened up, the archers unleashed a storm of arrows, while the men behind the wall struck up a battle song, pure courage meant to pump their spirits full and keep fear from gripping their hearts. Fire and lightning mages unleashed their spells to slice through the goblin horde. Then right out of nowhere, slugs started flying in, and one attacker shouted that they were firing caustic bullets. Someone lets out a sharp groan of pain, and he snaps that they're done waiting. Now they've finally stepped out to show themselves. These are hobgoblin shamans. Archers fire tracking arrows that lock on so the target can't vanish, and those shots drop goblin mages fast, straight to the head. The commander roars that this is perfect, and orders a melee unit to be left on them. Then the soldiers surge in from below, crashing straight into the goblins. They're dropping monsters left and right, one after another. Then Dodon strides up in full armor, and everyone's like, yeah, you can't even tell who the real monster is in here, because that's exactly what their boss would do. He blasts roaring lightning, and the crowd instantly freaks out, because if it can hit him, it can hit them. Then he fires that lightning straight through, and one brutal shot wipes out every monster in its path, boars included. A monstrous hole rips open in the ground, and one soldier groans that he totally overdid it, while another yells for everyone to scramble behind the walls before the rain hits. Rain starts pelting down, and Dadden slams his hand on the wall. Then he roars, shouting that somehow they managed to hold them all back. Thor's report said only the northern wall was rebuilt, and that's exactly why the monster struck. He hammers their assault into the wall's toughest, fortified spot, convinced the hobgoblins outsmart him in ways he hasn't even realized, because right then, he can't find their leader anywhere. Deedon tests it and growls that it's only a distraction, then he snaps his head up toward the sky. Right before the fight at the northern wall kicks off, Toru dashes out on a mission, convinced he has to rebuild as much of the southern wall as humanly possible. While he's making his way forward, he spots wrestling going on nearby, cranes his neck with caution, and then, there they are, hobgoblins marching in tight groups through the forest. Toru can't believe it. Why are there tracks here? And why are the goblins, who should have gone straight for the wall, sneaking off into the nearby forest? He knows the fight at the northern wall is already underway, and he can't stop thinking, should he turn back right now and sprint to get help? He backs off the idea fast, because if the hobgoblin's real plan is already in motion, there won't be time to sprint for the north wall. He remembers what went down 10 years ago, and with fury in his chest, he swears it. This time, it won't happen again. The one thing he refuses to lose is that lucky dinner table. Then he spots the goblins starting to smash right through the wall. Probness pervert is pure chaos. Everything he does is a distraction, and then he clenches his fist like he's about to explode. He's staring at the forest and wondering, can he wipe out those hobgoblins without stirring up the people who are still working at the wall? Even after the lightning needle's hit wore off, he still fought free somehow, then blasted forward at high speed for a little longer, refusing to get fully pinned by that armored boar. He still feels every cell in his body screaming, all out, but can he ever top it again? He yanks out his sword and decides, no backing down. Then he bursts from the bushes, screaming like a war drum, and his blade catches the goblins completely off guard. Tora whips his sword in a deadly blur, decapitating goblins left and right. Then he bolts behind a tree the second he realizes there are even more of them closing in. His hand shakes from the strain, but once he steadies himself, he snaps back into focus and realizes, at this pace, he can take them on. Suddenly, a creepy dark aura slams into him, and his mind races. Could this be the same person who ordered his troops to hit the northern wall as a distraction, setting up that surprise attack? Is that the hobgoblin boss? Tora's eyes widen. His deadliest warrior has just stepped onto the battlefield, and then the wall crashes down because the goblins have finally smashed through. Toru realizes that at this pace, the city won't survive a two-front attack. He charges straight at them, and the moment the goblins spot him, they snap their attention his way. Then he swings, takes the head clean off one. Toru slams his hand onto the wall and snaps it back into place, leaving the goblins stunned and sending their rage through the roof. Thor finds himself swarmed by goblins, then he clocks it. About 10 of them slipped into the city, and before he can even breathe, they lunge. He whirls his twin swords and hacks them down, cutting heads and limbs off one after another. A goblin's slash still lands on him. He staggers, clutching the damage with a trembling hand, and then one goblin charges straight at him. The goblin snatches Thor's sword and drives both blades straight into his stomach at once. Thor's mouth pours blood as he hauls himself up. Then he jams his knife into one goblin's eye. While the other is reeling in shock, Toru shoves him and drives a kick straight into his chest, sending the goblin stumbling backward. Toru yanks the knife out of his own stomach with a blood-curdling scream, choking out coughs of red as it comes free. Then the goblins stare, terrified, because the wound seals up right in front of them, leaving not a drop of blood behind. Even now, he keeps hacking goblins to pieces. Then a speech erupts, begging the ice god to finally grant eternal rest to those who defied his will. Someone was chanting the ice sleep spell, the one the Ashen clan uses, sending a cold haze to snap their focus, then lulling the targets into a deep, helpless sleep. The goblins drop into sleep, and Toru snaps to it. Only one person in the whole city can pull off this kind of ice magic. Uriel strides up to him, and while every goblin snoozes upright, the mistress's smile blooms as she congratulates Thor for coming back. Toru asks the owner what she's doing here, and she exhales hard, saying places like this are getting hit these days, so the housing is dirt cheap. Suddenly the goblins snap awake, but before they can even blink, Toru rips their heads off. He still hasn't heard the northern horns screaming their victory, so he knows he's got to act fast before the hobgoblin chieftain and his troops slip away somewhere else. He whips his head toward his mistress. She nods fast and tells him she can't last in a fight for long, but then begs to be allowed to stay and help him. Toru grins and nods, strides to the wall, slaps his palm on it and brings it back, because after this, he's got only 3 uses left. The goblins smash the wall again and surge in like a living flood. Then they whip around as Uriel hurls another spell, demanding they lay down their rage and find peace. While everyone's busy hibernating, Toru strikes first and wipes them out on the spot. Then the second wave of goblins crashes in, leaders right behind them, while they blast fog into the air. Uriel snaps his fingers and summons razor-sharp ice crystals. Goblins instantly go rigid, freezing in terror again. Then Thor slams his blades down, and the goblins bleed and shake, but they still can't land a single hit. Toru's mind is blown, just breathing in those tiny crystals, and the hobgoblin's insane regeneration gets completely shut down. He realizes the only thing left is to cut them all down, so he swings his blade and does it. Then he whips back to the owner and sees she's sick, fighting to stay awake, and he catches her just before she slips into unconsciousness. Even with low-tier skills, she kept slinging them again and again, mowing down multiple opponents in one non-stop assault. Every time she cut in, it crushed their momentum. So yeah, that exhaustion had to be real, because she burned through an insane amount of magical energy. The mistress presses herself against his back as a fresh wave of goblins crashes in, and Toru locks onto the exact moment when her magical energy peaks to the max. Then he'll fully restore it, boom. The goblins burst in, spot their dead comrades and try to flee, but they drop instantly when their leader steps through. Thor finally clocks it. The boss of the hobgoblins is right here. He turns to Uriel and asks if she'll come with him. Uriel shoots back, "Is it you, Thor? Because even this awful pain in my hips is totally gone." Toru says he'll figure it out, so he begs her to slow down and get some rest. Then Uriel snaps back that it usually takes 5 F-rank heroes to take down the hobgoblin chief. Doesn't this totally look like the test you have to ace to become an E-rank hero? Toru tells her not to stress. He's got this, so he orders her to hang back and watch from a safe distance. And when Uriel says she understands, she leaves him to Toru. Uriel's leaves rustle as the hobgoblin leader starts growling. Toru trembles like he can't contain his excitement, staring at his own body like, this skin is basically armor, and it looks like I'm wrapped in bare fur. He can't stop wondering if that steel blade will slice right through it. Then the monster lunges, so Toru figures he'll have to hit its head or carve at the edges of its limbs. The monster slashes with his weapon, but Toru twists out of the way and drives in. He smacks the monster's face with his sword. The monster's rage skyrockets, and it swings that massive bone at him again. Toru slips sideways and dodges at the last second. Smoke curls from the goblin's face as his wound knits shut in an instant. Then he gleefully licks the last trace of blood off his own skin. Toru realizes it's hopeless. No matter how hard he targets the body parts Fu doesn't guard, the guy still regenerates everything he takes, wiping out all his damage like it never happened. He rises, hands trembling, and so does his sword. A sudden thought hits him. There's still one spot his blade can strike and actually hurt someone. Tofuru lunges out of nowhere and swings his sword for the monster's eyes. But at the last second, the monster throws up his arms and shields himself with his forearms. The monster huffs out smoke, and Toru's hanging on by a thread with sheer tension. Then the goblin's hand slips, and Toru smashes it straight in the eyes. The monster shrieks in agony, clamps both eyes shut with his hand, and stumbles. Then Toru surges in immediately, unleashing a relentless flurry meant to drown him in non-stop attacks. Then the monster lunges, hooks Thor by the collar, and in a snap Thor realizes he's been caught. He stretches out and slams his hand against the wall, then hits restore, bam. The wall starts swelling, and Toru gets knocked flat on his back. The wall slams the goblin in place. He can't see anything anymore, and a storm of rocks crashes down on him. Toru pants hard and thinks, I really did bring this wall back to before the hobgoblins tore a hole through it. Uriel steps up to him, praising him like a hero, and says it was a great job. Then he leans in, noticing how worn out he must be. The moment he turns his head, he shoots the mistress a heartfelt thanks. For a split second, the whole moment gets cut short by young Uriel. Thor's eyes go wide, his mouth drops open, and heat rushes into his cheeks when he sees her. Uriel tilts her head and asks what's wrong and why he's blushing so hard. Thor fumbles an awkward, shaky mumble. Nothing's wrong. Toru pops to his feet and drives a blade straight into the goblin leader's head, then fires off a question. Did you two make it back to the house? She shakes her head and says no. And as he watches, Toru can't shake it. Somehow, the owner still hasn't clocked that anything has changed. Toru can't even tap recovery or secret anymore because the last uses are gone, and Uriel tells him she'll handle everything here. So she snaps, hurry up and get back to the gate. Thor thanks her, hands the whole task to her, and promises he's got it. Then he bolts out of there in a hurry, as Uriel stands there thinking hard about what she's cooking for her today. Rain finally fades, and beads of water race down the plants. Then Carlos leans toward Thor and blurts that he's late because the party is already over, with Sezon's group standing right there beside him. Toru shot back, stunned. He swore the rally point was supposed to be somewhere else. And then he stared at the four of them and admitted it looked like they'd figured it out after all, right here. Sison swears that as soon as the horses wrapped everything up, they ran into yet another armored boar, but Carlos bulldozed in and saved them. And then Sarah and Mew showed up at the gate, so they hunkered down and guarded the whole area. Carlos says right before the gatekeepers finally showed up, they all locked in together, tore through everything on a rampage, and hunted down the remaining troops deep in the forest. Toria tells Carlos he owes him something, and Carlos turns red, stammering that he then urges him to just walk his own road, move on, and stop stressing over something as petty as owing. Suddenly, someone yells, Thor. He whips around and finds Mew and Sarah sprinting right at him. Then they slam into his arms and hug him tight. Carlos and the others meet their gaze with warm, understanding eyes, and Totru instantly clocks it. Sarah's been converting her magic non-stop until it's all gone. Sarah starts to say she finally gets it. After everything, you realize it takes pure willpower to risk your life for someone else. She blurts that she's kicking herself for not seeing it sooner, and she can't believe she didn't turn around and rush back to the city right away. Taurus says he gets it, and that what matters most is that she finally saw the truth herself. Mew leans in, asking if he wants to hear how she took down the boar. Sarah nods and says, yeah, she beat it. Toru stares them down, then snaps into a super tight hug, right as the girls explode into red-faced blushes and start cheering. Taurus insists they poured everything they had into it, didn't they? He can barely put into words how relieved he is that everyone's safe, and then he snaps that it's his fault for even considering handing it over to the adults. Sarah blurts out that it's not his fault, it's hers, because she couldn't do something that simple. Mew fires back, saying he protected her the way he promised, just like he'd told her to. Sarah's indignation flares. She grabs Mew's cheeks and snaps that it's not okay to defend her like that, warning that if she does it again, Sarah will get really angry, while Mew shoots back that Sarah herself promised she wouldn't. Toru watches their exchange, and a smile creeps onto his face, thinking, wait, are they finally starting to click? The very next day, after they crushed the goblin attack and saved Dodden City from the goblins of the forest, Sako's troops rode back in, sent straight by Deputy Chief Sako. A fresh report backed up everything investigators had been digging at for a while, because the wrecked area near Basalia had been turned into a massive, living dungeon. Out of nowhere, top-tier adventurers burst into the dungeon and crushed any threat before it could turn into a problem. The real disaster. This infiltration hit right before the goblins slammed into Dodden. At Choi's place, Teacher Dodon leans in and asks Sako straight up, does he really want to say that yesterday's goblin attack was somehow tied to the dungeon getting wrecked in Bosalia, like the nasty fallout of destroying it? Sako tells him it's just his own hunch, and the real cause won't be uncovered until they dig deeper. Sako points out that after the attack report, the countermeasures were barely holding, and then the goblins' sabotage threw everyone off, so they slipped right into the city unnoticed. The last one got wiped out with zero trouble by some passing seeker, but all those hard efforts still ended up as a total, undeniable failure. Didon bursts into laughter and thanks that passing seeker, because if he hadn't shown up, Basalia's tragedy would have repeated itself all over again. Sako explodes in anger and snaps that this isn't a joke, and Dodden nods like he finally gets it, telling him he should reorganize the nearby gate guards, cutting their numbers down. Dodden is already yelling that he won't just stand by and do nothing. He's going to slam those savings back into action and rebuild the wall. Sako takes a sip, stays eerily calm, and tells them it's his call, then says he'll lay out his thoughts to the committee at the next meeting, and insists the people who fought bravely yesterday must be rewarded. Didon lets out a shaky breath and snaps that the whole vibe has crashed again. Only now there are fewer of them, and the work keeps piling higher and higher, until he's sure their morale is about to plummet to rock bottom. Sako tells him it's basically unavoidable at this point. Since nobody civilians got hurt, it's not the absolute worst, but when the gate guards grab all the hands and slam the gate on the people, they end up looking terrible. Dodon says they've got to thank them for this, no question. Sako chimes in that this time only 3 gate guards bit the dust, while 9 years ago it was 11-2. Dodon can't even process it. He can't believe his worthless student somehow turned into someone this capable. Sako claims the guy is with another seeker, but the inn's waiter steamrolls the moment, raving about nameless heroes who wiped out dozens of hobgoblins, and even their leader. The waiter whips around and drops this wild rumor. One of these heroes is supposedly a knockout with a broom, and the whole city erupts, scrambling to track down these mysterious legends. Dodden tells them Toru's not just grown, he's become a man, and says he's way beyond anything he ever imagined. Sako nods along, and they keep right on drinking together. Dodon remembers Sako's words, how Lady Ural is the one who spots every lie in a heartbeat, and he swears it was unmistakably her. Sako grins and says he's always blown away, because her beauty is seriously unreal. Dodon tells Toru, if you can claw your youth back, maybe you can also wipe away the rough, worn-out look Sako's stuck with. Sako snaps back that his selfish wants can wait. Right now, they've got bigger fish to fry. Dodon presses him, are you talking about Bosalia? And Sako shoots back, yeah, so what happened? Sako lets it slip. They've got the dungeon under control, but the labyrinth boss is wrecking them, and sealing it won't be a walk in the park. That's why he pushes Toru to go harder, to get even stronger, because right now, Toru's about to meet Carlos. He asks if he's really ditching the gate guards and vanishing from the city, and the guy nods. He's leaving with Recon. Rickon's selfish sprint away after the gates shut trapped innocent people, and now he's been stripped of his seeker rank and marked for banishment from the city. After all, this loser has been his partner for years, and there's no way he can just walk away like that. So he stares at his own choices, and Carlos decides they'll fix this together, somehow. Carlos tells Tora to run straight to Sarah and apologize for not taking her to different restaurants. Then he turns to Mew and squeaks, tell her I'm actually a cool guy. Toro tells him this is going to be rough, because Carlos knows he's not about to lie to her, and when he hears that, Carlos just grins, totally unfazed. Toru juts his fists toward him, but Carlos offers up his hand, no wrist at all, and then Toru tells him, this is my parting gift. He remembers every hunt they ever shared, right down to the way he sharpened and restored the blades, and then he admits, with a heavy breath, that this is the farthest his skill can take them. Carlos starts crying, swears this skill isn't useless, not even a tiny bit, and tells everyone it's honestly amazing. Carlos' arm snaps back to normal, and when he stares at his own hand, he can't believe it. Tor shows up one last time, looks at him, then turns and walks away. Ural out their grilling meat, and Mew and Sarah are absolutely thrilled. Mew leans in and asks if it's a meat party tonight, while Sarah hypes Thor up, saying it's incredible and the meat is practically thick as a brick. Ural claims he's got even more boar dishes: roast ribs with white beans, fresh new round potatoes, and onions. They also serve minced meat skewers packed with a soft, strong-smelling filling. Yerl swears there's still tons left, so she grabs the crowd and tells everyone to dig in and eat their hearts out. Yesterday, Toru accidentally tossed the mistress back into her youth, and now the big problem hits hard. Turning a woman who finally looks healthy and beautiful back into an old version of herself would be painfully awkward. Then, when he blurts out a question about it, the answer lands clear: she's absolutely loving it. Mew cheers everyone on with a hearty bon appetit, and the whole crew digs in right away, while Sarah and Mew just drift off, smiling in pure joy at every bite. Everyone's eating, and even the cats sneak in on the meat under the table, because of course they do. Once they're done, Sarah groans that she's way overdid it, and now she can't even take a step. Toru tells her the truth, that she totally got carried away and cleared 5 whole plates of food, and she just brushes his words off like they don't matter. Iril tells them she really hopes they enjoyed her cooking, and Toru fires back with a huge thank you for an insanely delicious dinner. She tells him it was pure joy for her gift to celebrate the victory over the 2 armored boars, and that their shiny blue adventurer tokens are the proof. Mew snaps that it's totally unfair. She's the only one without a blue token, and Tofu shoots back: "Don't freak out. You'll grab an F rank fast. Trust me, you're the strongest of the bunch." Mew grins and confirms it's true, and Ural snaps that it's a damn shame his promotion to E rank got delayed, because he did beat the Hobgoblin Chief, even if the dungeon wasn't fully cleared. Toru sighs that missing the dungeon conquering skill is a bummer, but he's secretly relieved he didn't end up drawing way too much attention. He says he shut down the monsters before they could invade the city, and he hauled in a ton of gold for his trouble, plus that armored boar skin can be turned into fresh gear, and he's convinced he's pushing forward step by step. Iril flashes a smile and Toru leans in like, "I've got to ask you something." Iril goes, "What is it?" Toru asks, "If you don't mind, would you join our squad?" And Sarah and Mew light up instantly. Uro glances back and tells him she's insanely grateful for the invite, but says an old woman like her will just slow them down. Toru asks if she's got another problem, and she immediately twitches. He grabs her hand and says he might be able to help, then asks to take a look. He watches every one of her memories, and even with her whole life laid bare, he still can't spot a single real problem. Then he leans in, staring down at the roots of her tree. There's a black hole sitting there, and it hits him with one scary question: what the heck is that? It clobbers your progress, blocking you from earning skill points while crushing your magic's growth. Ural reveals the twist. Toru can spot skills with his own eyes, no measuring device needed. Then her smile crumples into sadness, and she tells him it was all because of that cursed fruit. It's fault she had to quit being an adventurer. She kicks off the tale from the past, back when the temple's head strode into their village, and everyone stared like, what could he possibly want here, in a place so cursed by the gods? They claim she said she wants to meet your alluring self, and the others gasp, then start cursing her like a damned witch until someone slams it down. Don't toss comments like that around so casually. At Uriel's house, she asks again, does the temple's head really want her to become a teacher? The woman nods and confirms it. Then Uriel throws her thanks at her, grateful she'd braved the long journey just to be here. She slams down the offer, hard no. The temple leader leans in and demands why someone like her, once dubbed a hero candidate, vanished from the adventurers, then presses her on whether it was the mage killer behind it. She just stays silent. The temple master says that normally, once you beat the dungeon lord and seal the black hole in the skill tree trunk, a new fruit pops up, yet in one brutal labyrinth, there's a skill there that curses magic users. Then she leans in and says it's just a rumor. Either she got thrown out of the party, or she finally got sick of the adventurer life, but the real reason she quit, that part doesn't matter. She demands that Ural pass on her brilliant knowledge, even calling her white ice, and Ural snaps back that it's only up to the temple head, so that's why she was made a teacher. She turned her dreams into a torch for the next generation, helping them grow and shine. Then Toru admitted, yeah, I finally get it now. Toru says he tested the curse himself, and the description lays it out. After every monster he fights, his skill points get cut down by 10x, and the curse keeps draining his magic reserves little by little, even though they're supposed to grow each year. At that moment he panicked, hunted for the one with her max magic, dragged her back and healed her on the spot. Then Sarah demanded, so you can't use your skill to wipe it out. Tilru tells everyone that if it's a skill tree branch, he can trigger recovery as many times as he wants. But once the recovery time reversal effect kicks in, the skill fruit gets stuck on the trunk and can't be pulled off. Sarah asks if she can take a look. Ural tells her, go ahead. Then Sarah turns to Mew and asks for help, but Mew groans, I'm so full I can't even move. Sarah warns her that if she starts falling apart after eating, she'll magically turn into a fat cat. They drop into place beside Uriel, and Mew grabs her hands like, it's starting. The next second, all four of them are standing right in front of Uriel's tree. Uriel blurts that it's wild seeing the tree so crystal clear. Sarah can't help but ask if that isn't just amazing, and Mew smugly claims it's all because of her. Sarah snaps, I'm swamped right now, so they'll shove it to later, and then she smooths her hair, patting the swirl at the top of her head. Sarah steps toward the fetus, shuts her eyes tight, and the second she does, everyone else freaks out, scrambling to ask what she's about to do. Suddenly, after Sarah's move, the fruit flares lighter in response, because that growth acceleration skill cranks the user's skill points and magic growth into overdrive. Toru finally clocks it. Sarah didn't break the curse by luck, she flipped it back with sheer skill. Sarah shrugs and says she only thought it might work, then leans in, asking Toru how it feels. Uriel doesn't answer her. Then, in the next instant, the mistress lunges into her arms, sobbing with tears streaming down her face. Sarah grins and hugs her back, then Toru snatches Uriel's hand and yanks her forward. Right then, a voice between them shrieks, I can't breathe. Mew was sprawled on Sarah's lap while Uriel clamped her arms around her tight, crushing her in a full-on hug. Then they just kept holding on, and Toru slid in beside them with a grin. All four of them march up to the Adventurers Guild, and Sarah gasps, it's insanely empty in here today. Toru tells her it's all because the plan to take back Bozalia is wrapped up for now, and the high-ranking adventurers have already gone back to their hunting grounds. Sarah tells Toru she and Mew are going to get ready. Mew promises they'll be back in a snap, and Toru warns her not to push herself too hard. Thor tells Uriel, everything's fine, let's go together, and Uriel shoots back, good, because I'm counting on you to show me around this place. Even though that place feels almost empty, one person is blaring at the top of their lungs, so Toru snaps at Uriel to go to another stand. Toru leans in and asks the worker with the two ponytails if they can register a brand new adventurer. She just blinks, and absent-mindedly says, yeah, sure. The second she spots Uriel, her cheeks explode with blush and her words tangle up as she panics. Still, she forces out a shaky hello and tells them they're taking registration applications, introducing herself as Marika, then quickly asks if she can know their names. Uriel introduces herself and tells Marika it's an absolute pleasure to meet her. Then Marika shoves a paper into her hands and asks Mrs. Uriel to fill out the registration form. Uriel chuckles, thrilled that she can read every letter so clearly. Toru leans in and asks the worker, because registering a fresh adventurer takes the token of the person who introduces you, so he flashes his own token, and the worker takes one look. Marika scans the paper, blurts out that she's 22 and from Stola, then grins and says, now I get where these ears come from, and laughs off any worries. She sees zero problems. Uriel's true name is Jurali Rull, but they shoved her into registering as their granddaughter, so they chopped it down to Jiril. Marika drops the ball and blurts, can you touch it now? Uriel shoots his hand out and taps the ball. Toru stared in disbelief at Uriel's skill tree again. Every one of the lower branches like Ice Dream, Ice Crystals, and Snow Cover had fully grown, and fruit hung from every top branch like it was ready to pay off. And yeah, Ice Flower Camp, that mid-level skill tree, is already fully grown, with Freezing Mist clinging on for dear life, leaving almost nothing left. Every skill tree caps at level 9, and sure, they might not all mature, but she's sitting on 4 of them already. Marika declares, I'm just incredible. Then she furiously weighs what rank she deserves, until she beams and announces she'll be bumped straight up to rank B. Toru snaps, demanding why newbies shouldn't be starting out on G rank. Then Marika's fury flares as she fires back, what do you even want? And he just keeps butting in, like he can't stop himself from pushing into their conversation. Tofu awkwardly shoots back that it's not like that. He's just trying to see whether the system changed, because he'd hate for her to land a rank that high and cause a whole mess. If the adventurers are separated by more than 2 ranks, they can't team up, and the hunting grounds open to them shrink fast. Toru spun around and spotted a worker who always served them, then told Marika to wait and slam the procedure to a halt because he needed answers first. So she snapped, furious, demanding why he'd stop when she works here too. Uriel quickly turns down the panic, speaks with perfect manners, and even apologizes for it, then asks if Marika can wait just a little. Marika snaps right back with a bright smile and says she'll wait as long as she needs. Then he throws in a teasing condition, can Uriel let her touch her hair? And she instantly blushes, glancing straight at Uriel. At another counter, sparks fly. An angry customer demands the worker spill the name of that modest gentleman hero, but she snaps back that she can't share it, even if they ask her personally. She won't drop it and keeps pressing her for the initials like, what about those, can I do that? And she snaps back, even just the initials could be enough to track him down, so no, you can't. The visitor flips the script and reveals she's a woman, warning them they'll get nowhere like this. And after a beat of thought, she starts interrogating them all over again. She grills the worker about her age, like, sure, you can do that right. and you can tell she's already sacrificed plenty. She's even about to say it's still not worth much when the visitor snaps, glaring and shouting that she can't even get her age told to her. Toru strides up and blurts, "I'm 39 now." Then he asks, "So are we done with this conversation?" He swivels to Anna and asks, "Got a minute?" Anna shoots back, "Did something happen?" Toru says he showed up to register a friend, but it looks like Anna's about to jump to a higher rank. Anna then demands to know if they've already been judged with that one measurement machine, and Toru confirms they already have. Anna blurts out, "I'm really, really sorry, but I can't change my rank, because once the registration system switched over, it's locked in for good. It's now more efficient, and your rank climbs or drops depending on how your skill tree grows." Toru can't stop himself from thinking, man, how careless was that? After using the measuring device, he's even lost the chance to fix the hostess's skill tree. Then another guy in uniform steps in, shoots out an apology, and claims Toru's trying to team up with the lady she brought, because that's Shika, the leader of the support squad. Toha says that's basically what he wants, then pushes, "Let's knock her rank down a bit." Shika shuts it down fast, "We can't flip it too far. Best we can do is a C rank." Torium warns that if it goes down like that, they'll need at least an E rank to even form a squad, and Shika grins, because if his team gets promoted, no one's causing trouble. He says the Goblin Cave, the ultimate trial to earn a rank E promotion, has been untouched by every squad so far, and if they want, they can claim first priority since it was discovered by us. Then he turns to Toru and asks what she thinks. That Goblin Cave sparked the invasion in the first place. Yeah, the monsters are beaten, but the cave itself still isn't conquered. And it's been days since the Labyrinth Lord got wiped out, so the Hobgoblin leader should have been reborn already. Toru tells him he gets it, and they'll handle it. Then the girl who grilled Anna for answers leans in and asks if he's the mysterious hero, staring like, "Wait, you're older than I expected." She presses harder, wondering if he's trying to prove himself before he walks away. Toru begs her for forgiveness, admits he lied, and the girl gasps, "Wait, did that really happen?" The guy behind her snaps that it's probably another lie, and she, furious and totally lost, demands to know right now if it's real or if she's being played. She admits she's just dying to see what that famous chance guy looks like since he threw it all away. Then Toru cuts in and shuts down the whole deal. The girl catches up to him and tells him to stop. She isn't done talking yet. Toru spins around and demands to know if she really has more to say. She yells that the word on the street is he's about to storm and conquer the dungeon, then dares him to a showdown. Whoever kills the dungeon lord first wins. The guy behind her snaps that the dungeon's tiny, so only one person can squeeze in at a time. She freezes, suddenly uneasy. She tells Toru, "You can go there first, I'll let you go." Toru grins, takes off and says, "Cool, then you owe me." The guy behind her snaps that if she does this, a third party could swoop in and steal the win. And then he reminds them they can't even challenge the dungeon yet, because they haven't finished registering. She still won't cool off, hounding Toru as she runs after him, screaming warnings, jabbing him with her index finger like, "Watch yourself, because I'm not playing." Mew strides up to Thor and asks, "Want to take a bath?" The girl gasps and flushes hard when she spots the kid, then immediately wonders, does he even have a wife? Sarah steps out in front of him, drops her head and confirms her suspicion, then says with full certainty, "I'm your beloved wife." The girl looks totally baffled and snaps that they're lying. She's never once heard anything about him having a wife or a kid. The guy tells her to cool off fast, insisting she must be one of Mr. Toru's acquaintances. Sarah swings in, greets them and introduces herself, then drops the bomb that she and Tovru are in the same squad. Next, she turns to Mew, and Mew instantly asks if she wants to join them in the bath, and just as quickly offers to wash her back. Bishiana steps up and tells him her name, Bishiana, and right behind her stands her butler, Godden. Godden greets them with a smooth, "Nice to meet you," and Toru blurts out, crushed, that even though he never wanted to meet them. Mew says she wouldn't mind getting along if Godden wants to, and Godden plops down, thanks her, then offers a little candy like it's a sweet peace treaty for their meeting. She pops the candy straight into her mouth, swears it's honey, and declares it tastes amazing. Then Sarah and Thor get offered candy too. Betchiana bursts into laughter, tells her to keep going until their next meeting, then admits she's sorry, because she's got to run, so she calls Godden to follow right behind her. They sprint away and Toru can't shake the shock of it, what flipped in her so fast. Right then, Marika is busy combing Uriel's hair. She raves that this boxwood comb is pure perfection, and that Uriel's hair turns silky smooth the second it touches it. Uriel tells her, yeah, it's a bit pricey, but trust me, it's worth it. The softness is unreal. The shaker steps up, blurts out an apology to Uriela for making her wait, and lifts a tray toward her. Then she spots an adventurer's token sitting on top. Uriel thanks them and Sarah blurts out how stunning and grown-up that black frame looks. Mew then grins and says Grandma has turned into an adventurer, just like Mew. Toru shoots her an apology for making her wait, because he's the one who invited her. Yul waves it off and tells him it's not his fault at all. Merika shrieks in disbelief that Ms. Uriel didn't even snag a B rank, and Shaker snaps back at her to get moving and hit work right away. Toru swears they'll smash the goblin cave and be right back in no time, so he tells her to hold on for a bit. She just smiles and says she's way more patient than he thinks, so she'll wait. Sarah flashes a smile and says it'll probably be ready in no time. Mew chimes in that since Sarah's the one handling the job, it'll all run perfectly. The very next day, after Toru and his party checked in with the guild, they stormed straight for the goblin cave. To climb to rank E, they've got to hunt down the hobgoblin Shafton lurking deep in that cave, and beat it within 15 days. But here's the catch, this won't be nearly that simple. The dungeon hides minerals right inside its very walls. So if anyone dares to poke around a goblin cave, miners go with them, and every squad has one job: keep everyone alive. Even though the goblin cave only has about 3 underground levels, because the miasma never stops pouring in, you can't trust a win. Defeat a hobgoblin and it'll crawl back from the dead within a couple hours. So the miners can only dig during the safe hours, then they hustle straight to the goblin cave. Sarah tells Toru it'd be faster to explore the cave while they're digging, but he shuts it down. No fighting while they're mining crystals, or it'll lure the miners in. They're forced to push forward, taking turns, slashing monsters, then diving into the mines for minerals, while Toru hammers it into the miners' heads. They're heading straight into the first level, so gear up and get ready. One of the miners can't shake the fear. Can they really stay safe with a squad that includes a kid? Another one snaps back, who knows? Because once the Adventurers Guild gives them the okay, all they can do is sit tight and wait. They push through a pitch-dark, tight cave, and Sarah can barely make out her own hand. She begs Thor to light the lantern, but Thor snaps back, warning that if she turns it on, she'll instantly become a beacon for the hobgoblins. Sarah curses that if she keeps going like this, she won't even be able to see where she's headed. Then she slams into something and lets out a sharp, startled noise. Toru snaps back to her senses, says she's tapping into Mew's eyes, perfect for seeing in the dark, and before anyone can worry, Mew grins and says, "Leave it to me," then uses her power. As the view bursts open, Sarah's eyes go wide. She gasps that they can even see in complete darkness, and she swears Mew is absolutely incredible. Suddenly, a rock comes flying at them, and Toru slams his sword up to block it, saving everyone in an instant. He swears they showed up fast, so he squints closer, catches the noises in the dark, then snaps, "Stay close, follow me," urging the girls to trail behind with plenty of space. He surges forward, swatting aside the rocks again and again. Then he spots 2 monsters leaping in, ready to tear him apart. With one savage swing, he lops off both their heads. Then another goblin hurls a rock, and Toru snatches up the fallen body as a shield, drives forward with it, and spears that goblin straight through with his sword. The miners clink their cups and kick back with drinks, and one guy jokes, "I'm not coming back for a long, long time." Then he shoves out a snack, and the second miner leans in, cracks up, and keeps the good mood rolling. Suddenly, Toru and the girls burst out of the cave, ready for answers, and the miner snaps whether they've already quit and come back. Toru grins, saying they're done, and the rest are left stunned. Toru tells the miners they're free to go now that the first level is cleared, but they don't buy it yet. They straight up ask how it can be true when less than an hour has even passed. Toru tosses a handful of severed goblin ears at them, and the miners freeze, eyes wide, mouths gaping in pure shock. The miner blurts out, "Is it safe now?" And Toru snaps back, "Yeah, you're good," then adds that not even one of them should have been left in there. Sarah grins and tells everyone they crushed the cleanup, and Moose nods like, "You really worked hard, now it's all safe and ready." The head miner barks at everyone to get up and quit lounging. Work time is here. Then another guy snaps back, raging that they're calling him lazy when he was literally just blabbing about snacks a second ago. They all slip into the cave together, and Sarah clocks something off about Toru's sword. She spots his belt sagging and blurts the question. Then Toru shrugs and admits, "Yeah, I'm pretty old." She asks if he can't fix it, and Toru tells her the truth. His restoration won't touch anything that wasn't built for combat. It only brings back weapons and armor that took a direct hit, and Sarah finally nods, saying she gets it. Toru grins and says, "Perfect," then tells them to sweep the monsters out of the area while the miners start digging. He spots Mew messing around with rocks right there with the miners, and Toru blurts out what she's even doing while they take a break. Then Sarah tells him Mew said stacking rocks is straight up fun, and she's finally opened up to them completely. Toru snaps Mew's name and hauls her to the cave, and she hits him with the truth. She's sick of repeating the exact same thing again and again. Once the miners clocked that Toru's squad looked rough but fought like pros, more and more miners poured in day after day. A few days later, the miners jumped up to 20, and when the monsters came for the camp by the cave, the crew answered fast by adding a brand new guard squad. This is Shisen, and there's his whole crew. He shoots a grateful thank you at Toru for all the hard work, Rikaru tells everyone to look after each other, and then Hisoku and Elisha pop in with a warm hello, basically saying, long time no see. Sarah beams with joy and practically yells, we haven't seen each other in ages. Tors leans in and says, and get this, what I've heard is we'll be guarding you all the way back home too. Shessen credits it all to Thor, and Rikar shoots back. So you just magically found courage, or did you finally stop being terrified of everything? Hisoku tells Rikar that until just now he only knew how to swing his sword like a raging maniac, but now he's even mastered retreating, and Rikar fires back that even Hisoku can shoot a bow without dropping into a pose. Then Elisha chimes in that as a healer her burden feels lighter than ever, so she can finally kick back and watch the fight. Toru just grins at everything they say, and Elisha snaps back, wait, there's something we need to ask you, Toru. Toru shoots straight to the idea of mining ore, then shrugs it off and says, I don't mind this time, because they finally tossed the mining rights aside. Everyone's cheering, Mu included, until Toru grabs her and says, not you. Mu shoots back, irritated, I wanna dig too. Toru leans in and asks if she's always loved those holes. She grins and says messing with rocks is the best, because if you smack the right pile, everything starts tumbling apart. Toru finally gives in and tells her, once we wipe out these goblins, I'll help you too, so Mu better hang in there. She nods back, says she gets it, and locks it in with a promise. After 5 brutal days inside the cave, they finally hauled in enough ore. Then one of the miners grinned and said they were about to wrap up the first level, because it had been ages since they'd advanced this fast. Honestly, they never thought anything special would happen at all. The miner leans in and says Sarah and Mu are so adorable that anyone would fall for it instantly. Then the other miner nods hard, swearing he's 100% right. Sarah's face flushes red, and Mu beams with pure happiness. Gather leans in and asks Toru if they're really planning to hit the second level tomorrow, then worries out loud that they're moving way too fast. Toru just smirks back, saying the first level is basically cleared, so they'll wait and see. The miner cheers that they're blasting through the work fast, but warns them not to burn themselves out. The loggers then explain how they helped save the day, and he finally offers an apology for ever doubting them. Toru lets out a breath and tells her not to stress. He's dealt with this so long it doesn't even faze him, then adds, with 10 days left, the deadline is coming fast. The countdown to conquering the Goblin Cave is down to the last few days. Ramo lights up at the sight and brags that they're back, and they crushed it fast. Toru blurts out an instant apology for rushing. The girls greet Ramo too, and then Ramo looks at Toru like, so you're doing pretty well, huh? Then he calls everyone over and asks if they want to try the new clothes on. One by one, they all change outfits. Sarah asks if it looks right on her, and Toru just nods in silence. Ramos tells her that if the suit feels too tight on her shoulders or under her arms, she can tweak it to fit her perfectly by pulling the drawstring at the chest. Then Sarah leans in and asks, so you mean that right? Mu points at the hat and fires off a question, and he answers with a grin, it's made from red hippopotamus skin. Mu freezes in surprise as Ramo leans in and asks what's up, if she's enjoying it. She admits it feels a little weird, but yeah, she actually likes it. Mu darts over to Sarah and Thor, and Sarah immediately pokes her elbow, shocked at how oddly soft they feel at first, until the second you grab them and they turn rock hard. Ramo explains it. These things are made from the hump of an armored bear, and the hardness comes from layering it just right. Rama gazes at them with a warm smile and blurts out, if only I had a wife and kids. Toru shakes his head and fires back. Jude, you're not even 30 yet, time, S still on your side. Ramos grins and declares he's right. If even he, just hitting 40, managed to land such a great wife and daughter, then there's absolutely no way he should quit this early. Sarah stares at Toru and blurts out that his robe is absolutely stunning, while Mu grins and says Toru looks so shiny it's unreal. Rommel leans in and says this robe is stitched from the blue-striped serpent that haunts the fetid swamps. Because it slithers through miasma-soaked filth every day, its skin turns out insanely tough. Toru explains that it's high-grade stuff, worth a whopping 20 silver coins, and Sarah blurts, are you really okay taking something that expensive? Ramo flashes an instant grin and a wink, saying he just got an order to fix a snakeskin cloak. Then Toru blurts that they used the whole repair as a cover, drained the restoration for extra material, and crafted that robe straight out of it. Rommel demands an update on the cave, and then he snaps, saying the fact that they had to rush him proves they're dealing with some brutal hard times. Taurus brags that nothing in this world can stay hidden from him, and that it's always a sprint against the clock. Ramo fires back that there's a reason they play by rules too. They don't kill the Lord until the right amount of ore has been mined. Tora can't stop thinking about Ural, wondering what would have happened if they'd only had a little more backup. Then Rama snaps back, saying the miners aren't helping at all anymore, they're turning into a straight-up burden. Toru suddenly snaps back to a memory, yells at Ramo to hold up, and promises they're gonna pull it off. Then Mu takes the bag and thanks him. Ramos swears he crafted that pouch just to celebrate her promotion, so why is it still sitting there like a mystery? He grabs the moment and tells her to open it and see what's inside. He spots the magic stones and demands to know where she got them. Nayu grins and says they're snacks meant to feed Ohanamaru. Ramo blurts out that he's got no clue what's going on, so he demands an explanation right then. Sarah smiles and says this is Miu's favorite sled. She even named it for that flower-like design, and the magic stones inside let it soar through the sky. Ramo's jaw drops as she finally gets what Sarah meant by food, and Sarah snaps that Toru was mad at Miu for hopping on them too much. Then Miu hangs her head and admits it with a sad sigh. Yeah, Toru was furious. Sarah grins at Rama and says, if you push yourself during these adventures, you can earn magic stones. Then Miu chimes in, laughing, yep, this is called a salary. Rama pats Miu lands on Toru's head, and then Toru tells him it's time to go. He sees everyone off with a big wave. Right when they're gone, Sarah whips around and says she wants him to do something for her. She scoots right up to him and whispers in his ear, and Ramo cracks that it'll only take him a couple of days. Sarah begs him to do it, Ramo smirks, and she turns and heads back. In the goblin cave on the second underground level, they keep pushing deeper and clearing everything out. Miu blasts foes with lightning, while Toru keeps slamming the attacks back with rocks, blow after blow. He snaps into action, charges the goblins, and cleaves their heads clean off. Then he spots the telltale wound, a bullet of decay. Like I figured, as soon as we hit the second level, hobgoblin shamans come swarming, and their teamwork makes them dangerous, but he wipes one out without breaking a sweat. Sarah blurts out, what is that smell? Miu jumps in too, and Toru says, it's like the skills monsters use, touch it, and you'll get hit with the same fate. Miu snatches Saru's gun, pokes at the smoke like it's a game, and then boom, her gun starts melting right in her hands. Sarah snatched it up and shot Toru a worried look. Are you okay? Did that weird thing mess with you? Toru nodded and told them to check his cloak, because that kind of snakeskin from a poisonous swamp didn't mean a thing to him. Sarah shoots out an apology, admitting she should have stopped him. Toru tells her don't overdo it. Using that invocation to make flying objects move is brutal. Then he smirks and adds, that's exactly what the mantle was made for. Sarah wrestles with the idea for a moment, then leans in and asks Toru if she can try it. Toru freezes in shock, then breaks into a grin. She snaps her weapon up and starts using her skills on his cloak, and Toru swings in with his knife to slice it, only to realize it's gotten tougher. He can't stop wondering if the skill just flipped the decay bullet's effect, the one that crushed her defense, and Sarah snaps, asking how he's even able to use it now, since he seems fine to keep going. Totru then fires back, so what else can you keep using? That's the whole key to taking down the Labyrinth Lord. Sarah beams at his words, then Miu leans in and blurts, okay, but what's the key you're talking about? Where does it come from, and does it taste any good? They burst out of the cave, and the miners instantly panic, asking if Toru's really sure everything's fine. Toru doesn't flinch, he trusts them completely, reassures them he won't let any of this turn into trouble, and promises he'll stop anything before it gets messy. The miner nods and says he gets it. Then he'll flex his authority and let them go for it, because if they pull it off faster, it'll benefit everyone, and he's honestly shocked they even came up with this plan. Toru fires back that an adventurer's life is what turns cunning into a man's honor. Then he grins and tells them to come inside in 30 minutes. The miner blurts out, so we only have to reach the end of the first level. Toru grins and says, yeah, just that is enough to make the hobgoblins snap into action. Toru leans in and asks Sisun if they can count on him when things go wrong, and his group shoots back, 100% sure that they've got them covered. They step into the cave, and Rikari can't stop wondering if the old man's gonna be alright, when Hisuku turns to him and asks, you worried? Rikaru asks is it insane to use the fact that monsters are packed together when there's a ton of people, just to yank the goblins on the second level straight toward the crowd? He tells them it won't take long and it'll make the old miner's life way easier, but there's a catch. They're going to have to take on everything all at once. Hisuku bursts into laughter, and Rikaru snaps at him, what are you doing? Then Hisuku smirks, can you believe it? The selfish type would actually start worrying about someone else. 30 minutes later, Shisun barks that it's go time and they're out. Rikaru shoots back that he's ready to fight. Hisuku shrugs that he probably won't have to lift a finger, and Alessia snaps that they'd better shut up, because all this chatter is wrecking her focus. After a while, the miners yell that they're coming in too. Inside the cave, Toru declares the first level is finally clear, and Sarah turns to Miu. Hey, can you take a look? Miu points at the rocks and tells him to stare at how high she managed to hurl them, and Toru fires back. That's awesome, but where are the other monsters right this second? Miu blurts, can't we wait? I'm freaking out about those rocks right now. Toru's face hardens as he snaps, I want answers right now. Miu obeys and fires up her power. Then she spots a whole swarm of goblins, and she blurts out that there are way too many of them. Toru blurts that it worked. Then she tells Sarah they've got to hold the line, and Sarah fires back, leave it to me. I've got your back. Toru fires off a question to Mew, where are the closest of them? Mew jabs a finger in one direction, and the goblins instantly stiffen with fear, but Toru just moves and cleanly decapitates every single one. Between the first and second levels, Toru and Shisen collide mid-run, and Rikaru's like, looks like you handled everything and left us with nothing. Hisuku smirks and adds, I knew you weren't bluffing. The miner swears it was only the three of them all along, and that he's been doing this for ages. Yet he's never, ever seen anything like what just happened. This dragged on for over a week, and when the final day finally hit, the miners' leader was left completely speechless. In the Goblin Cave on the final day of conquering, Benietta storms in with Godden and tells them, today's it, this cave is yours. She praises him as the Mr. Ordinary hero, and Toru blurts, so you dropped everything just to come see us. Betchiana shrugs and says, come on, we're rivals, then tells them to watch the enemy's every move like it's strategy on the edge of a knife. Godden snaps that they haven't done a thing to earn the title rivals, yet he can't help admiring the mindset. Then the girl shoots him an irritated look and asks why he's laughing at her. Sarah greets Betchiana, and Betchiana instantly drops the bomb, just call me Betty. Then she clocks Sarah's shirt, saying it's shockingly good quality, and tells her, next time show me the shop where you got it. Sarah declares she'll take her there, praises the shop like it's pure magic, and even pushes Betty to go together with her. Betty leans in and tells Mew that she's got that same bright energy, yet she's still as tiny as ever. Mew swings a punch at Betty and leaves her stunned, jaw dropped. Why are you hitting me? She blurts. Mew smirks and says, if we're rivals, then I'm not trying to be your friend. Godden crouches down, snatches out the candy, and gushes about what a wonderful character she is, then asks if she can be allowed to hand it to her as a reward. Mew insists Godden is a good guy, and if he wants, he can become her servant. Then she jumps straight in like, this is perfect, so can we talk about your salary first? Mew dumps his bag of stones, staring at them like, you mean this? Godden grins and says they're the most insanely amazing stones he's ever seen. Godden admits with pain in his voice that he'll stay a loyal servant to Lady Betty no matter what, and Lady Betty can't wrap her head around why she ever hired someone like him. Toru snaps, that's it, we're done, and they charge off for the final level. Then they trade goodbyes and say they're gone for good. Betty tells him to really put in the effort. Season swears they've got this, and he begs them, just don't push it too far. Betty swears they'll never lose, so they should go for it. Dawn praises her sweet words, then drops the real truth. If they conquer the dungeon, it won't be a win at all. It'll mean they've already lost. Betty flashes a smile at Godden and tells him, fine, this just means we'll have to go at them again. After they crushed the first two levels, like it was routine for Toro and his squad, and got their skill uses back to full power, they tore into the third. They push into a weird, massive place, and Toru drops the bomb that the third level is apparently nothing but this one room. Mew spots something instantly, jabs a finger toward it and says, there's someone's there. It's the hobgoblin leader, looming with a massive bone swinging like a weapon. Meanwhile, Uriel is cooking dinner when the cat meows, so she slides them a plate of meat, then tells them, that's all you're getting until Thuru and the girls come back. The goblin leader spits out a furious, poisonous blast. Then Toru shouts for everyone to move and pulls Mew aside to tell him he's counting on her. Mew doesn't hesitate. He fires off both the thunder needle and the electric spike right away. He finally gets this power, and it's awesome to see her pull off both thunder force and electric spike without tweaking her skill tree for the past 15 days. Toru spots Sarah's excitement and tells her to stop clenching up like that. She fires back that she's not tense at all. She's just brimming with pure enthusiasm. Toru plants his stance, rips his sword through the air. Then the leader explodes into a roar. Toru doesn't hesitate and charges straight at him, but the monster snaps in to strike. Toru jukes the attack at the last second, snatches his own weapon hand away from the monster, and the creature shrieks in pure agony. Toru snaps in for a second hit, and it only clips the edge of his mouth, yet that quick strike brings blood pouring out. Toru darts to a new spot without a second thought and smashes him in the neck, right as the attack lands. Toru can't help but wonder if he was always this slow. After a while, every monster's wounds close up and the bleeding finally stops, and behind it, all the girls are yelling at him to push harder. Then Toru grins right back at them. Right then, the monster lunges in from behind. Toru whips around just in time and dodges the strike, and when his blade clips his cloak, he blasts him with a crackling electric current. Toru thought it worked. He chained the hobgoblin's decay bullet effect, spammed Sarah's appeal a few times, and yeah, every bit of it was worth it. It only lasts a few minutes, but the durability crushes even dragon skin, and when he lifts his sword, it hits with the exact same power. The monster rages and lunges back in, but Toru snaps its head off first, then hammers it with more brutal strikes until it's left nearly without limbs. Right in the middle of the cave, that black hole snapped out of existence and turned into plain ground. Toru had heard the rumors. When the Lord of the Labyrinth dies, the black hole vanishes in an instant, but seeing it happen for real hit him like a punch. Girls swam Thor, gushing that he's insanely cool and it's totally amazing, while Mew, convinced he'll be smashed, watches in disbelief. They hug. Toru grins and says, "Not over yet," because conquering the labyrinth means he's earned a skill fruit as his prize. He hits the ground, and boom, accelerated healing kicks in, wiping out any injuries or strange abnormalities in the owner's body at breakneck speed. Toru finds it kinda strange. He already has recovery, until he realizes it could still come in clutch for patching up small cuts. Toru grins at Mew and Sarah and tells them, "Go on, touch it." Mew does, and the second Toru sees it, he's blown away. Physical upgrades kick in, boosting the wearer's raw strength. Toru tells everyone that Mew's brand new skill is legit, and you can see it. Her face lights up as she admits she knows she's finally stronger again. Being an adventurer isn't just about punching monsters. Most days you're hauling non-stop, so you better thank your lucky stars for those leg enhancements. Sarah reaches out too, and Torio catches a glimpse of the anesthesia, a shot that numbs the pain for its owner once it hits past his limit. Sarah blurts out, "So how does it work? Does it really make the pain feel less?" Toro leans in and says, "If I'm remembering right, it's the most dropped skill around here, and it's insanely good for a vanguard." They say adventurers can shrug off injuries that would knock anyone else out cold, because the first time they clear a dungeon, they unlock that power for good, but Toru's heard it doesn't kick in for tiny stuff like scratches at all. It only activates once the damage crosses a certain line. Sarah blurts that for some reason she feels cursed with a useless skill, then smugly brags that she somehow got the perfect one, just for her. Toru only shrugs and says it all comes down to her luck, because as far as he can tell, this place has just one vanguard-worthy skill, and of course none of them managed to land it. Sarah spots something's off and blurts, "Is this really the end for us?" Topher shoots back that it'd be a disaster if the ceiling suddenly caved in on them. Then once the black hole vanishes, the dungeon fades away about an hour later. Then it hits him and he blurts out to Sarah, "Can you check if my skill's appeal actually works?" She levels her weapon at the fruit and snaps that nothing good can come from it. Toru shoots back that it's exactly the kind of thing that can't be ignored as a potential attack, and urges them to turn back right now. He steps onto the round ground where the black hole used to be and feels the whole place wobble with danger, just like that time with the stone slab, so he figures it's worth a closer look. He tells the girls to back off. Sarah steps away and yells for Mew to follow. Then he drops to the ground and kicks off his recovery. Everything starts to shake. Sarah throws back a scream. Then the leader's body starts snapping back together, piece by piece, and he rises from the dead. Sarah shoves Mew away on instinct, but the monster yanks her by the hair and drags her straight toward him, while Toru lets out a gut-wrenching scream of her name. He snaps back to it instantly, realizing it's all the same as it was 9 years ago. Then he shocks himself by saying everything's changed, and he's not alone anymore. He barks the order to Mew, and she instantly gets it, zapping the monster with an electric spike that knocks it down and finally breaks Sarah free. The monster whips its claws back for Sarah, but she pulls it up with a desperate appeal. Then in the very next heartbeat, Toru rips its head clean off. Toru shoots Sarah a worried look and asks if she's okay. She nods, swearing she's fine, and insisting it's all because Toru was there. Mew then grins and says he showed up so fast it totally caught her off guard. Sarah, still shaken, apologizes to Mew for knocking her over. Suddenly, Sarah blurts out that when he yanked her hair, it didn't even hurt much, and she swears it's because of the skill she trained. Toru nods like, "Yeah, that's probably it," and Sarah snaps back, "Then I was insanely lucky, was I?" Mew spots another stone slab popping into place, shouts it to Thor, and he springs up, strides over, and presses his hand on it again. He powers up with a physical enhancement skill, just like Mew, and he swears the old skill is still there, with something brand new on top of it. And it turns out that when you use recovery on the stone tablet, the whole labyrinth snaps back to how it was before anyone got subdued, so he tells the girls, "Go on, touch it too." Sora gets a massive healing boost, and she lights up at the chance to recover. She's thrilled it worked. Taru, though, eyes the situation and mutters that he's only got 6 more recovery uses left for today. And even with that, they both know it's probably impossible to drag everything back to how it was the moment that Stone Tablet first showed up. If he was going to nail the Labyrinth Lord Resurrection trick, he had to hone his blade to the edge, because the ride back was crawling with goblins waiting to ambush him, and he only had 2 more shots. Toru shrugs and says they should try, and Sarah shoots back. "So you're really doing something just because you want that stone slab gone?" Toru tells them he's ready, so he begs Mew to swing the electric spike and thunder needle, and orders Sarah to stay right on Mew's heels. On the 3rd round, Toru slammed into pain relief. Mew surged with accelerated healing, and Sora's body got a full physical boost. On their 4th try, Toru and Sora surged with fresh magic power, and Mew finally felt the pain lift off her shoulders. Toru blurts out, "This is awesome," and says each of them just scored 4 new skills, then he pushes, "Let's go back." Sarah quizzes Toru, asking if his ear is even needed as proof, and Toru snaps back that they don't, because the dungeon's total destruction is proof enough. Sarah nods like, "I get it." Even though he's the master of the labyrinth, not one magic stone has spilled from it, and then Mew leans in and tells him, "I'm starving." Toru tells them, "Don't you dare relax yet. Our dungeon run isn't over until we finally kick our way out of it." They burst out of the cave, run straight into the crowd, and boom, everyone starts clapping like crazy right as they reach them. The second they burst out of the cave, the whole place crumbles right before their eyes, swallowing itself in smoke and choking dust. At the evaluation desk, Anna greets Thor with relief and says he came back safe, then leans in and asks, "So how did it go?" Tora shoots back, saying they somehow pulled it off, and admitting it was a brutal 2 weeks, all crammed under that time limit. Anna lights up and calls it an amazing job. Then she leans in and asks the miner if they're sure the dungeon is conquered. He nods hard. The dungeon is totally gone, wiped off the map, and he swears those guys are the real deal, true adventurers. The miner grabs his hand, grins, and says, "Working with you was awesome. Now I can't wait to see you grow." Ina beams again, shoves the board into their hands packed with fresh tokens, and tells them to grab their pieces and get going. They hurry back home. Right on the porch, Sarah spots Uriel blasting out, "This is our mistress." They march through the city together, and Uriel blurts out, "I didn't fight in the conquest, can I really come?" The Rue grins and tells her, "Of course you can, this is a celebration for your promotion, and a welcome party just for you." Mu beams and asks if a feast is coming. Sarah lights up right beside him, but Toru just sits there, maddeningly silent, refusing to answer. They stride up to Choi's place and Sarah asks, "Is this it?" Then they step inside, and the moment the door swings shut, warm smiles and friendly welcomes hit them right away. Dodon bursts in and says, "We finally made it, already started." Sako slips down beside him and stays silent. Toru shoots back his thanks for the invite. Uriel blurts out an apology for making them wait, and Dadan, red in the face, insists everything's totally fine, then waves them over to sit. Dadan jabs her finger at a chair and tells Sarah to sit. Sarah gasps that there's only one chair left. Mew snaps back that she's too small. Toru points to Mew's spot on his lap, but Sarah beams and plops right down there. Then Toru warns her that eating like this will be super uncomfortable for him. Toru rings Mew and Mew tells Sarah, "I never told you." Then somehow Mew ends up planted on Toru's knee, while a crushed, silent Sarah sinks into the last chair. Dodon says they're doing great. Then Mew cuts straight to it and demands who he is, but Mew has never seen him a day in his life. Toru tells her, "I came by before. I asked you to fix the wall," and Sarah shoots back, "Yeah, and last time your hair was all shaggy." Toru swears he fixed it by using restoration to bring his hair right back, and Dadan erupts into loud, booming laughter. Everyone's handed a plate and someone yells, "All right, start eating." Dodon cracks a grin and declares, "Today it's on me. Take whatever you want." And just like that, everyone leans forward and thanks him. Sako starts pointing at the priciest stuff and pushes, "Just start with that." But Dodon snaps back, "I didn't say you could, so don't go ordering the most expensive drinks and dishes." Sako snaps at him to stop being so petty, calling him a washed-up adventurer, and then fires back at Uriel, "What about you?" She smirks, only a little. Sako tells them she wants another portion for herself, and Uriel turns to Don asking if everything's truly fine, only for him to erupt with emotion, screaming to bring the barrel right away and grab the beans too. Toru slaps in his order, round potatoes and sausage, again, and Dadan blows a gasket because he always picks the same thing. Toru leans in and asks if they've got regular drinks, and the waiter points him to orange juice. Then Toru grabs the order fast and asks for 2 glasses. Toru tells Sarah she can order anything her heart wants. So she blurts she wants meat, points at the dish, and asks what it is, and the waiter calmly says it's the foot of a giant caterpillar. Sarah takes a bite and her eyes light up. It's so soft and seriously delicious. Mew nods, saying those meatballs taste amazing, then asks Sarah, "Want to try one?" Sarah blurts out what it is, and the waiter smirks. Lizard fat and cartilage, skewered, lightly fried, then stewed. Sarah takes a taste and lights up. It's delicious. The waiter beams and thanks them, and Mew jumps in right after, agreeing with Sarah. Sarah can't believe how insanely delicious it is. She's still staring when the waiter grins, slides the plate toward her, and urges, "Go on, try it." She takes a sip of the broth, gasps at how delicious it is, and the waiter leans in like, "So, you get it. This is just a little stewed meat broth, huh?" Sarah finally clicks, this is the real secret. She demands to know how he makes that broth, but he just grins and says it's a secret recipe he can't reveal. All she gets is that it comes down to real cooking, because if she messes up the broth, she's done. Sarah repeats his words, eyes locked on the steaming broth, and the waiter leans in to tell her that if she truly wants to be great at something, she has to master the basics first. Then Sarah goes quiet and starts to think. Toru lines up potatoes and sausage in front of him, and Miu's eyes light up. She goes to grab the food, but Toru snaps, "Slow down." Toru keeps warning her to put it back, before it burns, but she ignores him and shoves the piece in her mouth anyway. A heartbeat later, she ignites all over. Tears pour from her eyes, and she starts screaming and sobbing. Toru looks at her like, "I warned you." Miu bolts to Uriel and buries himself in her legs, and when she snaps that Thor is stupid, Thor shoots back, "That's exactly why you should start listening to me." He plants his palm on her head. Sure, he can heal, but he refuses to spoil every single one of her whims. Uriel sweeps Miu up onto her side and blurts that she's just hugging her, and Daden snaps back that it's nothing but nostalgia, because his son used to be just like that too. Saku chimes in, saying he's the same as his daughter, a tough, stubborn girl who won't listen to a single soul. Toriv snaps that Miu's gotten way more selfish lately, and Dodon fires back that he should start protecting what he's got, but Toriv just can't wrap his head around it. Didon fires the question at him, what should he do? And he vows he'll shower her with all the love she deserves. Dodon tells Toru, at times like this, scolding won't help. When that kid's upset, you need to be right there. So tell me, Toru, what do you do then? Dodon says it's fine. Selfishness is just the other face of motivation. So let her talk, let her vent, take her time, and really listen to what she's got to say. Yerl says it's the best advice ever, and Daden's cheeks burn as red as he can manage. Then he blurts that when a beauty like her says that, he feels young again. Sarah hatches a plan, points at something, and demands Miu take a look. Then Miu snaps back that she's not here. Sarah points and tells her to look at Mr. Miu's chest, right as Miu snaps her eyes open and spots the badge staring back at her. She blurts out a scream right away, like Ohanamaru, and asks if he likes flowers too. Daden shoots back, "I don't know, but one thing is for sure, he's not about to hate them." Torum makes it clear, this isn't some ordinary flower. The master grabbed it by killing the labyrinth's boss that was slumped on the lowest level, and this is the comb the multi-headed snake left behind. Miu blurts that Daden is Mr. Flower. Daden fires back, confused as heck, saying he's not totally getting what she means, but thank God her mood is back to normal. Daden pats Sako's head and gushes that she's such a cheerful little kid, and Sako grins that the flower grandfather fits her perfectly. Then Daden fires back that he's got a nickname too. Then Miu yells that Sako's got that military look, and Daden erupts in laughter, calling the fearsome, hard-serious Sako hopelessly spoiled. Then Sako snaps back that anyone who truly works hard doesn't even have time to sleep. Miu blurts that it's brutal, and the fact she's working too proves she gets it. Saku shoots back that it only works for people who have the skill in the first place. Miu says she can do it, then grins, shoves those stones into place, working her butt off, right as everyone cracks up laughing. Toru smiles and tells Sarah she was the perfect distraction. Then Sarah hits him with the exact thoughts running through her head. Suddenly, she declares she's going to whip up a killer broth, and he panics and blunders out. "Wait, did I get that right?" Then quickly tells her, "Good luck." At the Adventurers Guild, Daden blurts out, "Like I figured, the numbers don't line up." And Sako jumps in, and trust me, that hits hardest with the rainstones. Tal and the girls show up, and Miu yells that he hasn't seen him since yesterday evening, while Dodon presses, asking if they're really heading to the new hunting grounds. He spots Ural flushes red and blurts that it fits her perfectly, while Sako, right behind him, freezes in total shock. Ural thanks her and Miu tells the flower vendor to bend down, so Don drops low, and Miu snatches him by the beard. Dadan refuses to budge, he just keeps talking, pushing the question. Does Sako actually know where the magic crystals are? Sako says nobody ever brought proof to their healing temple, so it's gotta be that they shipped it off to another city and dumped it there. Dodden says this can only mean the wind user is in the mix, and Miu's having the time of his life, clinging to Dodden's beard while the other adventurers blur past, staring in shock. Miu suddenly drops his beard. Sako snatches it up, blurts that his hand slipped, and insists he's just holding it. Miu blurts out her thanks, calling him Sleepy Mister, and the soldiers lurking behind her go stone still, eyes wide, mouths hanging open in pure shock. Someone tries to stop it cold, but Sako slams down the order. It won't happen. Didon tells Sako, "Got it," and waits for his report. Miu grins and says, "Don't worry, we'll see the flower, mister." Dodon ruffles her hair, promises they'll see each other again for sure, then heads out, popping Toru on the shoulder as he walks away. Sako leans in and tells Toru, "I finally hit E rank," then reminds him the non-interference clock runs out in 5 months, so he fires the question straight at him. Is that gonna be enough time? Toru rushes in and snatches Miu from his arms, and Sako yells for Toru to be careful, because the next hunting grounds are going to be brutal to handle. After a short while, all four, Ural included, burst into a cart and rocket off at breakneck speed. Miu sprawls asleep on Ural's lap, and Ural grins as he says, she was bouncing with excitement when they first took off. Now she's out cold, snoring like a log. Sarah tells Toru she's bored out of her mind, but Toru shakes it off and says he'll keep watch so they can finally sleep. They grab the cheaper seats on the wagon's roof for that amazing view, but there's one problem. He has to stay on guard, because goblins could burst out of the forest any second. Sarah tells Toru she needs to talk right now, and Toru shoots back that adventurers gotta rest whenever they can. Ural tells Thor she can sleep too since her other leg is free, and Thor immediately drops his head onto that leg. Then he springs up, blurts "Thanks, sir," and says maybe next time, and Sarah steps in, telling him he can sleep with her instead. Toru flinches at the thought, but then he offers her an even bolder idea: lie down next to me. Sarah's eyes go wide, she can't believe he just said that. Yura just smiles, calm as ever, while Red Sarah declares, "I'll wait until we're alone, nobody's going to interrupt us." Toru said that without the nullification, the subjugation never would have happened, but Sarah was the only one who saw the whole fight, and now she's ready to boost her nullification to level 2 on this trip. Sarah insists once more that she'll whip up a truly wonderful broth, and Ural and Toru just stare at her with full-on loving smiles. After a while, they finally roll up to a house, and Toru wakes Mew from her sleep, telling her to get up. Then Mew blurts out, "Are we eating breakfast yet?" Toru walks into the room packed with people sitting at tables, heads straight to the counter, and asks if this is the reception. Then the worker nods and figures Toru must be fresh in town. A worker steps in, greets them with a sharp smile, and welcomes them to the Blood Adventurers Guild, where the river of danger runs. The worker steps forward, throws out his name, Rishi, then reveals he's from the Fukusui family, and makes it clear he's the one in charge of the instructions around here. Toru thanks him and Ural steps in with a big introduction. She's thrilled to meet her. Mew doesn't waste a second and blurts out that she wants 3 bowls of meat dango. Then Sarah jumps in fast, introduces herself and snaps, "Calm down, this isn't a store for that." Rishi tells them he'll start by explaining exactly how this place runs, then he drops the key detail. The return carriage leaves every single day at 3 p.m, so he urges everyone to double-check and not miss it, because weekends get packed fast, and booking tickets ahead of time is the smartest move. While they're walking over, Toru spots 3 carriages rolling by and blurts out, "Can we hop onto that train?" Rishi snaps back that those aren't for riders at all. They haul construction materials, and there's never enough room for passengers. Rishi tells them there are hunting grounds farther ahead, and that the Blood River has surged sky-high, so 10 adventurers push here at once. They split the groups and send each one to hunt in their own territory, so nobody gets tangled up or confused, and he prayed he'd made that crystal clear. Then he breaks it down even further. Upstream, the Red Iron class isn't weak because they're meant to fight with us, and if they cross the giant riverbed built for collecting, they'll reach the hunting grounds downstream. Torium pulls that move to reach the other side, but first they've got to smash through 10 massive hippos charging downstream. He'd heard the hunting grounds were packed to the brim these days, so they'd slapped on some strict restrictions. Still, that was a whole different kind of problem. Toru fires off a question to Rishi about how the work gets split here, and Rishi tells him it mostly comes down to the hunters themselves, their drive, their hunger to prove themselves. If they step up during the day, they get pulled into the hunt's toughest ranks and end up among the best. Toru asks if it's real, if hunters and adventurers are constantly at each other's throats, because everyone keeps dropping slippery hints that the tension is way deeper than anyone admits. Rishi shoots back, awkwardly admitting it's not quite that simple. He wants to fix it, but he's short on people. He tells them, "If you need weapons or any other gear, I'll cover it, so don't hold back, speak up and ask for what you need." Rishi cuts him off. "That's all," then asks if anyone's got questions. Toru shakes his head, says there aren't any, and insists everything's totally fine. Rishi thrusts the document into their hands and demands a signature. Mew grins and asks if she can sign too, but Toru snaps, "No," insisting it has to be his name on it. Mew's whole mood crashes into sadness at once, and Tori clings to Dodon's warning, "Make sure you shower her with enough love." Then Toru suddenly plays it innocent, acting like he's asking for help spelling his name, straight up asking Mew if she can write it, and she looks way better at it than he ever could. Mew grins and says, "Leave it to me." Ural and Sarah chuckle softly in the back, and Mew proudly holds up the paper. Toru leans in and goes, "You really wrote this." Rishi snatches the document and blurts that the name feels insanely familiar. Then he demands, "Have we met before?" Toru says he's been living in the ogre forest for ages, so Rishi and he probably never crossed paths. Then Rishi nods like, "Yeah, I get it." Rishi tells Lady Ural that the bloody river's going to rage for 2 whole days, so she better make sure she's not late for her carriage. Ural nods like he gets it, then shoots him a quick thanks for the help, while Rishi stands there, stuck in pure awkward silence, cheeks blazing red. They head out and march straight toward the river, and then Mew spots something, points wildly and yells, "So, are they really hauling something up from there? What is it?" Toru spots a bunch of people hauling bags around and collecting stuff, and tells you it looks like they're hunting for precious gemstones. He says the sand around here feels like it's packed with red iron. Then Sarah snaps back that the name fits their rank perfectly. Toru says the stuff you can haul out of this hunting ground isn't random. The color of it basically screams the rank. Enro blurts that the river is this wild, terrifying color, and she can't stop staring. Since she hasn't been to the north much, it totally catches her off guard. Mew teases her, asking why she doesn't think she's beautiful when she's got that gorgeous color, but Sarah snaps back that it's not worth even swimming here. Who knows what might happen to their bodies? Toru nods and says she's right. They don't know what's in this water, so she warns them not to drink and to stay on guard. It even shrugs off corrosion, while wood or iron rots or rusts after a few days in soaking water, so this river stays deadly calm because no ships ever dare cross. Toru and the others stroll the bank, hauling Mew on a sled, and when she spots tents she blurts out, "Toru, what are those?" He says these are adventurer tents, so they can crash here and rest. Then right inside, everyone spots them. "Wait, is this the same guy from the forest?" the first one asks. "Looks just like him," the second snaps back. So it really was him. He beat Russell and headed straight for the temple. The other nods and says, "They say he's brutally strong, can wipe out a whole crowd of warriors, and it'd be a total shame to let someone like that fall to an old man." They spot Mew and stare at her red outfit like it's a signal, and one can't help wondering, are they really not adventurers? They just can't wrap their heads around it. Toru spots a spare spot for everyone and he asks, "Can we stay here?" And the girls, totally obedient and friendly, rush together and start getting everything ready. A man strides up and demands what they're doing here. Toru snaps back that they're doing nothing. They just decided to stop and hunt, but the guy warns them the spot's already taken. Toru blurts out an apology, admitting he never realized it was taken, because he hadn't seen a thing. The man tells them to ask about any tents nearby, and they're basically left with near-empty options, so Toru smiles and says he figured this place was awesome, especially since it sits right next to the branch. Then the man barks, "Follow me," and 10 minutes later they're all trudging along the shore. Toru finally admits the tents are spread out across ridiculous distances. They roll up to a tent, and Toru asks the guy if they're allowed to hunt here. He doesn't even reply, just jabs a finger at a sign marked with a cross. Toru pushes the question, so it's impossible. The man just shrugs and says, "If you want to die then go ahead, please." Toru fires back, "What are you even talking about?" The woman grins and warns him that going there in the rain is risky, and Taurus can't help but agree. This massive downpour could make it downright dangerous. Toru tells the girls to keep moving, while Mew is out cold on the sled. Sarah snaps that they've got to find somewhere to sleep tonight, and Toru is choking like he can barely breathe. Toru scans the area and spots Uriel, way too gloomy to be real, so he shoots, "You okay?" She hesitates, then mutters that she's fine, and Toru wastes no time suggesting they take a break. Uriel pants through her breaths, realizing her body has nothing left. No power like the one she had 20 years ago. She hoped to glide through the thickets with calm ease, shrugging off every trouble, but fate just stole that chance. Plants around it gulp in energy like it's food. This one's been twisted by miasma, draining life from anything nearby, which is why not a soul dares to come here, and even simple plants refuse to grow. The man demanded to know what happened, and Toru snapped that they'd decided to take a quick rest. Then he grilled, "Why all of a sudden?" He doesn't wait a second. He snaps and starts yelling that he's had enough, then demands they get out of here right now. Mew snaps awake and demands what just happened, and the man goes right back to it. He said, "I told you to get out of here." Thor stumbles through an awkward confession to Uriel, saying there's nothing he can do, and desperately prays she'll refuse it. Then he scoops her up and they press on. Uriel blushes and blurts out an apology for the mess she caused, and Toru grins, telling her to drop it and not stress a bit. Mew asks if he's really going to lift her in his arms. Sarah swears he is, and admits she's even a little jealous. Toru chews on Sako's words, because the next hunting spot is way out of reach, and when they pass a tent, Toru snaps that there's nothing for them here, so they push on. They march up to the tent, already apologizing as they ask if it's free, and the man's eyes snap to Uriel's body. With a wicked grin, he swears the place is totally empty, and inside that tent, everyone's smiling a little too suspiciously. Scooting a bit farther from the tent, Sarah grins and says it's awesome they finally snagged a free spot, so Toru can just stop here and start unpacking. He turns to them and asks if they can help. Mew runs off somewhere and swears they'll be right back, but Toru snaps at her to stay away from the river. Uriel grabs Thor's gratitude and thanks him for his help, and Thor tells her they've got to hit the hay first and get some real rest. Toru hands her a folding chair. She drops into it and exhales hard, and Uriel, asking for forgiveness, admits she's fallen out of the habit of hikes and that her resilience isn't what it used to be. Toru reassures her that everything's okay and tells her to just rest, but Sarah pushes back, demanding details. asking if this needs to be written down here. Taurus promises he'll help with the tent, so he dashes off for a bit, while Ural reassures him, don't worry about her. Mew scoops up the stones and gapes at how massive they are, while Toru and Sarah grip the edges and slam a nail into place with a stone. Toru snaps that they're done, slaps Saru's hand and grins, you crushed it, we absolutely nailed it. Sarah swore she couldn't spot a table, but then she pulled out these coasters that instantly blast heat into your food and drinks. Ural stomps in with a tray of steaming tea, announces it's ready, and tells everyone to dig in. Sarah takes a slow sip of the hot tea, lets out a satisfied breath, and says she feels amazing. Then Toru whirls around and calls out to Mew, telling her to sit for a second, but Mew yells back, I'm already on my way, and keeps building massive stone high-rises. She snatches up another stone and slams it onto her tower, boom, and the blast throws the stones flying away from her. She's actually loving it. Toru's left baffled, wondering if this is what people call fun. After a little while, they finally creep closer to the river, and Toru slams the brakes, telling everyone to freeze, while he darts ahead to scout what's there, and he orders Mew to stay right by the relay for now so he can inspect these stones. They obey him. Sarah warns him to watch his step, while Ural tells him she understands. Then Mew bursts out, screams that she loves him, and shoves her electric spike into his hands. He steps closer, freezes like he's recognized it, but the memory slips through his fingers, and he can't stop wondering what's waiting on the other side of that river. The stones beneath his feet start to crawl, and black frogs explode from the water like they're alive with danger. A frog launches straight at Thor, and he stumbles back. Then 4 more frogs come creeping in from every side. Ural can't stop worrying that the oxen's spirits are furious, so she decides she has to do something, right now. She casts a sleep spell, and the animals drop into hibernation instantly. Sarah blurts, this is incredible. Mew yells back that they can't lose now, while Ural snaps at them to stay dead quiet or they'll wake everyone up. Toru just smirks thinking, yeah, this is exactly like Ural. This spell usually locks onto just one enemy, but since it fades fast and can't hit multiple targets, they patch it with a special magic injection, so the power stays strong even after it starts to dissipate. Even if you dump a ton of magical energy, it still won't go down easy, because those powers are just ridiculously huge. This is a universal spell, so it doesn't just spread, it surges out in a whole different way, hitting with a way more brutal power than the rest. Toru swings his sword to put monsters down, until he faces a frog covered in poisonous spines, and the spiky hide plus slick mucus stops his blade cold, so killing it turns into a brutal nightmare. He's seconds from ending the last one, and he can't stop smiling, because he's enjoying every moment knowing they can't move. Then an arrow screams through the air and slams his sword. When it's deflected, it embeds itself in the ground. Toru whips around and spots his neighbor. Toru yanks out his arrows and fires back. So what are you planning to do? Then he smirks hard. Are you really talking about your asterisk arrow? He flashes a smile and blurts out that he's sorry he missed it, then leans in and demands it back, swearing there isn't a single scratch on it. Toru snaps at him to be more careful next time, and the guy shoots back, rude as hell, saying Toru talks too much, then orders him to hand it over fast. Toru thrusts the arrow forward, the man grabs it, but Toru never releases his grip, and the stranger's hand starts to shake. Panic crashes over him as he blurts, let go of the arrow already. Then his other 2 comrades jump in, repeating the same demand, drop it now, because as soon as they get the order, they'll deal with him in a heartbeat. Behind them, Sarah is screaming for him not to get hurt. Mew pushes him to try, and Toru just lets the arrow fly, then they hurl back in fury. Toru marches up to the girls, and snaps that this spot isn't safe, then orders them to switch places right now. The 3 are still pushing forward. One of them points and says, that way, and the archer snaps an arrow into his bow, draws it tight and starts aiming. While Toru and the girls are whispering and chatting, the moment turns, bam, the bowstring snaps and slams the man straight in the face. Sarah snaps around and sees him on his knees. Writhing in pain, Toru stares at his hand and tells her he warned him to be careful next time. If you stare closer, you'll see blood slicking the river's edge. Uriel snaps another spell and the frogs drop dead to sleep on the spot, and Toru steps in to finish it. Right behind him, Sarah and Mew watch, standing in silence. Toru and his squad crouched on a deserted riverbank, way downstream from the spot where archers had them surrounded. As Toru swung his blade at the frog, a massive fish exploded out of the water, lunging forward with its gaping mouth, and blasted him with a thick stream of bubbly liquid. Toru snaps back instantly, but the poison keeps streaking toward her, so she throws her cloak up over her face and shields herself from it. At this moment, the fish spurts that awful liquid straight at the girls. Panic explodes across their faces, until Sarah snaps into action with her charm, redirecting the poison back down where it came from. The boiling liquid smacks the frogs that are still alive, and in a blink they slump into sleep, then the croaking starts, one frog at a time. Ural steps in again, snaps a FOD block into place, and frost erupts. Smoke swallows everything, then she whips it back straight at the frogs. They suddenly freeze in terror, fully aware of what's happening, alive and understanding every second, yet trapped in total helplessness, their bodies giving them away with that trembling shake. Toru whips his sword in a clean arc. Then the frogs start moving, sprinting back toward the river. Toru sprints to catch up, but the fish erupts from the water again, then blasts them with poison once more. Toru yanks himself aside, crashes onto his back, and the impact blasts the ground, scattering rocks everywhere. As Toru snaps to his feet, the poison lunges at him. His whole body locks up in pure shock, unable to move. Then Sarah bursts into action, transforms and slams the poison back, stopping it from going any farther and ripping it straight into the river. The frogs rocketed into the river, and Sarah shrieked in disbelief, like they really escaped after all. Then she stomped in frustration, yelling at that fish to leave them alone. A thrilled Mew brags, "We bolted because you scared us," and a crushed Ural mutters, "Maybe we should have frozen them better." Sarah turns to Toru and blurts out an apology, admitting that if she had a way to stop them, they'd never return, ever. Toru just smiles and tells her to breathe, saying none of this is on her. Sarah's crushed by it, and right then, Toru heads to a dead frog and rips out its tongue. Mew snaps, "Did you rip out my tongue?" And he grins, lifting the tongue in his hand. "This is my defeat." Then he warns Mew to watch out because it's poisonous. His knife scrapes against his tongue and goes dull, cracks spider across the blade as it starts melting right in front of him, but with restoration magic, he snaps it back to perfect condition in no time. Toru whips his head toward the river, and he's convinced that the farther they drift downstream, the more open space they'll have to hunt. While everyone lounges and sips hot tea, Toru blurts out that the monsters seem to have thinned out, and he swears the only one who's actually in a good mood is Mew, because she's too busy laying everything out. Toru grumbles that messing with this frog is nothing but a headache, and while he talks, Ural sips his tea and shrugs. The air here is just so pleasant. Mu sprints up to Toru and wraps his arms around her neck, and Toru keeps clutching her cup of tea as she warns him to be careful. Sarah spots him, leaps out of her chair, abandons her tea, and sprints over to wrap her arms around him too. Ural insists he can feel it, that he's a good person at heart, and Sarah shoots back that she only has to hug Thor a little to flip her mood, like every problem vanishes on the spot. Then Sarah turns to Ural and asks, "What about you?" Ural pauses for a second, then says she thinks this is the perfect plan. She scoots the chair right up to Thor and slips in beside Mew, wrapping her arms around him as they sink into the calm and close their eyes. Suddenly, Mew blurts out that Toru looks weighed down and she presses him. What happened? Toru takes a sip of tea, shakes it off, and tells her not to worry, because every man wears that same gloomy face. Mew grins, "Maybe it's because I'm just too cute." Toru chuckles with a smile, and that tiny moment makes Mew beam even harder, happier than ever. They huddle together, arms locked tight, and Toru leans in, asking if they should really swap up their hunting grounds. Ural snaps her eyes open and insists everything's fine here too, but Sarah cuts in. "These fish are the reason they don't even fit." Toru says, "It's not that I can't take their hits. I'm scared I'll wake them up again." Sarah jerks back and fires off. "Wait, if that's the problem, why don't you just put them back to sleep?" Ural shuts his eyes once more and grins as he tells them the creatures are fascinating, especially how they cling to Thor. She stares at the river and calls it a beast of water-based magic, strong as hell, but not unbeatable, and then warns you, stack the same attack on each target and your magic gets weakened fast. Toru leans in, asks Avril if that means it triggers resistance in monsters, and Avril grins, saying, "Yeah, that's exactly what it does." Buzzing with excitement, Mew asks Toru if he wants her to go do it, right now, but Toru draws the line, only if she learns to swim really, really well. Sarah panics and tells Mew she needs to practice more, and Mew nods like, "Good, then I'll train hard and try." Toru lifts the steaming cup to his lips and tells them, "Settle in right here and wait." All the girls are still curled up with him in their arms, and Ural admits she's not feeling her best, so she decides the only smart move is to rest right now. Mew asks Toru why dinner isn't ready yet, and Toru drops his head like he's about to snap. Sarah watches, totally confused, and blurts, "What's wrong?" Then Toru whips his head around and yells, "How long are you two just going to stare at us?" The guy in the middle snaps his tongue and admits he'd already noticed them, while the side guy fumes that he told everyone not to pop their heads out too early, only for him to shoot back, "Yeah, so I just wanted to know when you'd start." And the third man grins, shrugs, and says, "I can't stop it. I've never seen anything this beautiful before." He repeats that he likes modest, sweet girls, and the third guy snaps back, "No, charm and seriousness are what matter most." The first one's baffled and asks if beauty can't be small and easy to miss, but the third keeps pushing his point, and soon they're throwing words, and then fists into a full-on fight. Toru is seething, teeth clenched so hard his jaw aches. Then the guy in the middle steps between them, blurts out an apology to Toru for the interruption and tells them to go on. Toru snaps back with a furious shout, yelling for him to shut up. They kick things off by introducing themselves, starting with the eldest Rorolf, the steady, responsible one. Next comes Ninlas, 2 years behind him, always standing by his words like it's a promise. And last is Guptav, 2 years older than Ninlas, who keeps his eyes on everything, super attentive while his brothers don't. The elders slammed him on the head and demanded to know what he said. Then they erupted into another brawl, right there and then. Ural leans in and asks if they want some tea, but Toru's face hardens. He snaps at Ural, demanding to know why she's inviting them in the first place. Those brothers instantly cooled off, scratching the backs of their heads like, yeah, sure, and agreed they'd be happy to sip some tea. They all end up huddled in a circle, passing around tea like it's sacred, and as Toru starts to question the room, one of them blurts, "Wait, what are you about to ask?" Toru snaps, irritated, "So what are you even doing here?" The middle one pauses and fires back, "Why are you asking?" Then the elder smirks and admits, "I personally went looking at beautiful girls." The younger's face twists, "Yeah, that doesn't sit right with me, and weren't you just supposed to check if it was you or not?" The old man's eyes light up like he just remembered something, and he blurts out that this is their first time here, so he decides he'll help them. Meanwhile, in the back, Muse perched on Sarah's lap, glaring at whoever's stealing sips from her cup. Toru demands, "So how long have we been hunting here?" And the middle one snaps back that it's been over 2 years, then fumes that he's sick to death of staring at this awful red water. Toru says they look like his neighbors, but he didn't spot them on the way here. Then the middle one fires back that they were farther down the river, and that stretch of bank is way wider. Toru asks, "So what about the prey?" And the answer hits hard, "There isn't any." He leans in and adds that out downstream, it's all the same. Toru then shoots back, asking why they won't go the other way, and the middle one with a sad face just admits they can't, because they don't have a single penny. He tells them that to reach that place, people like them have to cough up a massive fortune, and Toru immediately grabs him for more details. He nods, then lays it out. These bloody river spoils get split into 3 big categories. The upper reaches are the richest, teeming with rampaging hippos, red-finned crabs, and other monsters that rake in cash through materials and points. And just like he said, since it's popular, getting there isn't easy at all. After that, you hit the middle stretch where they've already made it. You'll spot those red poison frogs there, until the sky opens up, and then more of them come crawling out when the rain hits. Toru spots the sign with the black cross on the way here, and demands to know what it means. He says that's exactly what he'd been warning about, and if they go hunting there, they're asking for trouble. He maps out the lower stretches, where they are right now, and laughs that it's way too far to bother. Sure, you can snag fish here, but mostly they're a nuisance, turning it into the worst spot to hunt. Toru goes, "That's why there are barely anyone here." Totu smirks, "We should wait until the middle opens up, no point hunting in here." He admits there's plenty of game out there, but he warns it's still a bad hunting ground, too many hunters crowding the same spots. Toru points out that, yeah, once Ural got sick, they kicked him out just for standing there and doing nothing. He claims they figured they were about to get robbed, so Toru shoots back, "Why would you think that?" He says these lucky folks just play the part, then snatch the prey and bolt before anyone can stop them. He warns that they were this close to getting played, so the neighbors would slap them with the main threat label and spread that fear everywhere. But even if they're hunting in the middle stretches, they'll still have to rise and flee the river, so Toru fires back, "Are you serious about this?" He swears it's all real, there's only one faction, and they grab the spoils and split the profits based on what race they belong to. Toru fires back, "Wait, am I not one of them?" And his reply hits like a punch, "If I weren't, we wouldn't still be standing here." Then his brothers jump in to back him up. Toru thinks hard and blurts out, "How do we even reach the upper reaches?" Then he sips hot tea and says, "To do that, we'd need a mountain of money." Toru lets out an awkward smile and tells him, "This isn't one of those situations where you can learn everything just by watching." The middle one insists they can stand up for themselves, but when someone attacks, they're not likely to come out on top. The elder snaps in disappointment that they can't even cast magic, and the younger one chokes out that he hates fighting because it always leaves him bleeding. Ural jumps in and, boom, the tension eases as she asks if they want another cup of tea, and the middle one beams as they happily thank her. He says the tea tastes amazing, and the younger snaps back that he's nervous. His throat's all dried up because there are just too many beauties around. Ural giggles with a flirty little cover of his mouth in his tiny fist and tells him thanks. She slides over a steaming cup of tea, and Toru leans in like, "So, do you know who runs this place?" He lets out a heavy sigh when he talks about it. The Red Thunder, that Purple Eye, and the red-tailed tribes have killer hunting grounds, holding nearly half of all the river hippos. Honestly, they're tied to the purple-eyed lot themselves. That's why they were pulled into this place. Yet in his eyes, the Dodaro tribe's leader is just a downright nasty piece of work. Toru seethes, "Why is nobody calling this out?" Then he snaps back that people are whispering the rebels just got swept away and drowned in the river. Silence crashes down as Toru's mind reels back to Rishi's worried face, the moment he questioned Toru about the conflicts. He keeps talking and then drops the bombshell. Those black-suited guys are doing whatever they want now. Turns out they're agents from the adventurer's security department. Tor blurts, so what happens next? And the brothers just stare confused and shoot back, wait, what are you trying to say? Toru says they're not dropping this right now, and the middle guy grins, telling him Toru's no slouch and that they've got a plan. The older one smirks, saying they'd all fall apart in tears the second they tried to bring it to life, while the younger one shoots back, not yet, I'm not ready. The eldest stammers that Toru should just drop it, and Toru instantly goes along. Then the middle brother chips in, saying he can teach them a few tricks, only he demands one thing first, let him catch his breath. He leans in and asks, so your beef with the frogs is really because the fish keep getting in the way? Mew nods and says, yeah, it's like that, and Sarah snaps back, try dealing with it, good luck. Then he grins and insists, but trust me, solving it is dead simple. Sarah asked how they were gonna drag the frogs away from the river, then he said, get them farther from the shore. The fish won't spot you, and you'll dodge the water bombs. Sarah jumps in fast, saying it's not that easy, frogs don't just crawl back to the river at all. She folds immediately and the brothers grin, promising it'll be so simple they'll be stunned. Then they offer to prove it right there, smiling and giving a thumbs up.